we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I guess we can get seated to get this whole up and running. So we're going to get started. The PS Minister of ICT, Dr. Amina Zawede, is going to Dr. Hatwib Mugasa to come and speak to us and invite the Permanent Secretary, Minister of ICT, Dr. Amina Zawede.
Thank you, Michael, and good morning, members. Good morning, the Data Science Fraternity of Uganda. I'm happy to see familiar faces and new faces too. I'm seeing quite a new faces in the Data Science Fraternity, and I'm happy to see that it's growing. It is a field that I think is it's a field that I think should be given a lot of due focus because of its importance in not just the IT sector, but in the global market. The whole ecosystem has or runs on data. When I first got into the field of data science, I will admit it was confusing to me. I had a little bit of challenge grasping the concept of data science. I'm a mathematician, or I was a mathematician, and for me, numbers came easy to me. I didn't have any challenge with numbers. I used to love mathematics. But data science is not just about math or computer science. I have a master's in computer science, I have a master's in mathematics, so I thought this is the best field for me, data science. And when I went to data science, it was a different whole playground. It was really, it opened up a lot of ideas and insight in what computer science can do or technology can do. When we talk about data science, we are talking about knowledge extraction, extracting knowledge. We are not thinking about numbers, statistics, aggregations, that is statistics and mathematics. We are thinking about knowledge. We are getting knowledge out of data. And in most cases, it's very dirty data. Dirty, I believe all of you understand what dirty means. Yeah. How do we make sense of this dirty data and make knowledge out of it? And this knowledge, how do we use it to make an action, to take a decision, an actionable decision? That's what data science is. When that was explained to me, it changed my thought process on how I go about with data science. Before you even think about extracting this knowledge, you must have the expert or domain expert in that where you're getting that data from. You must understand why. We're not answering how you do it, but why. Why are you doing this? Is it benefit per year? That's its annual revenue. We are still a mode in which they should work on. So for my remarks today, I'm Dr. Mugasa Atwib. I'm the Executive Director of the National IT Authority. How do we, as government, support the growth of the data science community? Government of Uganda, there are so many initiatives that they have rolled out, ICT initiatives under the Ministry of ICT. We have worked on the infrastructure backbone, we have worked on e-government services, we have developed policies, but we will not achieve much or will not extract the benefits from all this technology if we don't secure it as a country. So in 2019, the government of Uganda passed the National Personal Data Privacy and Protection Act, which now protects our personal data. We are vulnerable if we don't protect that. Back to the example of Google. We are saying that Google earns $250 billion US per year, but each dollar is attached to a user, an account. How much does Uganda contribute, or we are contributing to that revenue of Google? If we break it down to a single user in Uganda, it was estimated that each person here in this room, every Ugandan who has a Google account, should be paid close to $200 here in Uganda. But we are not per year, that's per year. $200, that's a value that you are giving to Google per year. But we're not really, how many of you have been paid by Google? No one. Okay, only one. And that's 1% in the whole country. So that's what we need to do. We need to protect our information, our personal information. That's how they're benefiting. And if we shut down Facebook, they don't care. Facebook is about 600 million revenue that comes from Uganda. But the annual revenue is more than 1,000 billion US dollars. The zeros are too many. It's negligible, less than 1%. So they really don't mind if we shut it down or not. They're earning enough. But how do we create value? How do we create value and be heard, be respected in the IT field? And this is one of the steps. Let's create this forum. Let's create this organization of data experts who will now govern or advise the governance of our implementation or our decisions, both as government and also they can decide, they can advise for the private sector. But they have, or you have a better understanding. You have a better grasp of what data means, not just for an individual, but for the nation. So with those remarks, I would like to invite the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Amina Zawede, to make her remarks. Thank you very much.
are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello, madam.
I'm trying to turn on the video, but the host will, should allow me to.
But we're getting you loud and clear, and yeah, once the video goes on.
Okay, thank you. You will let me know whether I should continue without the video on or not.
I am told that the video should be possible now. Good. So welcome, Dr. Amina, and please go ahead and speak to us. Thank you.
Was that Michael?
Yes, it was, or it is.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I thank you, the ED of NITA, Dr. Hatib Mugasa, for the introduction and for the wonderful remarks you have given in your speech. I take this opportunity to recognize members present at the venue and those online, representatives from government, from private sector, from academia, from the UN, our partners, particularly the UN Pulse Lab, and the interim committee of the Data Science Africa, Uganda. Good morning to you all. I am very glad to be with you this morning to officiate over the launch of the Data Science Africa, Uganda chapter. Maybe we should get an acronym for it. I don't know whether you're calling it DSAU, but to me for now, let me refer to it as that. I am pleased that we are here to talk about how together we can build the capacity of our Ugandans in data science and artificial intelligence skills. We know that the insights, some of which have been mentioned by the ED of NITA, derived from data, can inform and effectively support us as government, private sector, academia, and any other institution to make informed and evidence-based decision-making. This will help us improve on the public services that we offer to our citizens, both at national and regional level, as we catalyze economic growth and the opportunities we have or that there are in the private sector. I am one person who believes that, government can't work in isolation, and neither can the private sector or academia, but we should leverage on our potential and capacity to do the roles that we are supposed to do in the data science field to, support that ecosystem of data science. I think about 2 weeks ago, one and a half weeks ago, I attended the 10th Data Science Africa conference that was hosted in Arusha in Tanzania. This event attracted a number of presenters and participants from 7 African countries, as well as other countries beyond Africa. The presenters showcased, the application of data science in agriculture, in health, in the environment, natural language processing, and so on and so forth. So it opened up my mind, and as we speak about the data science today, there are a number of our students out there, or researchers, who have really done great work that we can build on to address the challenges that we face as a country and as a region. I was impressed that within these 7 countries that I stated that attended, we had from Uganda, students from universities of Busitema, Makerere. I have seen the principal of courses, Professor. Good morning to you, and we were really glad to have representation from the Artificial Intelligence Lab. We also had students from Barara University, representatives from the Ministry of ICT, Pulse Lab, Sunbird, and NSSF. So this, if we have representation from the different facets of the sectors that we have, that is government, private sector, development partners, and academia, all, showing how important it is for us to embrace data science, then it is a good way for us to start. This effort on the government side is very well appreciated because it is stated in the National Development Plan 3. Many of the decisions that have to be taken to see us improve. Some of the programs that government has currently, we are implementing the parish development model. And currently we are collecting data, we are registering households, profiling parishes, and in the end, we are supposed to be monitoring the revolving fund that government will be giving to the citizens of this country, Uganda, to improve their subsistence level that they currently have to, a commercial-based income and way of living. But how is this fund going to be monitored? How will it improve people's lives? How will we see them evolve over time? Has to take us to analyze the data that we are currently collecting to do that. So we, as we launch the Data Science Africa chapter or community today, community of practice, we know that it is going to be relevant in addressing our national challenges and helping us support government in coming up with informed decisions. So in collaboration with partners, the Ministry of ICT is working on several initiatives to create an enabling environment for data and artificial intelligence in Uganda. These include, in addition to the NDP3 that we embrace as a country at large, we have the 4IR strategy that has been concluded, the ethical artificial intelligence framework, and the data exchange platform. Because we know when we have this data, it has to be data that is shareable to all that need to use it, to the research communities and all that, in order to improve our research output. These initiatives will ensure that the government of Uganda and its citizens can maximize benefits from emerging technologies while protecting citizens from harm and from its usage. Just like the ED mentioned that we have the data protection and privacy law in place, that is one of the avenues that we have to have in place in order for data science to thrive. We also have the cybersecurity strategy that was concluded recently. So if we have a secure environment in which we operate, we have our data protected, then we are sure that we can confidently and comfortably share this data across platforms and across different spectrums of usage. In addition, these initiatives will also help us increase access to and reuse of data. I think we've moved away from this, from the era or from the times where data used to be taken as a treasure and people hang on to it and cannot share it. Today, we have seen entities that have their data out there for sharing have improved in their performance. We have seen, for example, the financial institutions, their performance has increased tremendously because of this know your customer. What does your customer want? What services can you offer? There is a lot of uniqueness around this. So even the same applies to government. We should know our citizens. Who are they? What do they want? What services can we bring closer to them based on the uniqueness that they have? And this way, we shall leverage on data science. And I am sure that this chapter, Data Science Africa, Uganda, will be one of those ingredients or entities that will help us get there. I was told that Data Science Africa has been historically sponsored by the likes of Google, Amazon, Facebook, DeepMind, and ARM. But it is a pleasure to learn that already there are a number of local entities that have sponsored this event, including the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. I would like to thank in a special way NSSF, who are the gold sponsors, Uganda Christian University, Fair Forward, who are bronze sponsors, among others. I also appreciate and welcome all the participants. I can see the number of participants online has grown to now over 45. I believe that by the end of the day, will be more than that. And those at the venue, we thank you all for coming to embrace this initiative that has come at a time, at a moment in time when we all know of its urgency and its requirement. Now, I take this opportunity to launch the Data Science Africa Uganda chapter. I wish you all fruitful deliberations for God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are indeed in very interesting times. I'm pretty sure, Dr. Amina, if you're here, you'd have cut a ribbon or signed a plaque or something like that. But I think we have a virtual ribbon cutting. And so, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause because Data Science Africa Uganda is launched. What that technically means is that Martin now can operate legally. It also means that we are no longer masqueraders in the ecosystem as Data Science Africa. But to be honest with you, this is a huge milestone for data science practice in Uganda. So another round of applause, guys. Now, just to put this into context, and I think Dr. Hatwib mentioned it as well as Dr. Amina Zawedi, the practice of data and the appreciation, let me even start from the appreciation of data as a value, as a tradable commodity, is something that is still alien to very many people, but as businesses as well. So I'll give a very basic example. I was talking to one of these big supermarkets here, and I was asking them, do you have an idea of the consumer trends? And the owner looked at me and he said, consumer trends, people come buy things, I see them going off the shelf, we place orders. What else do you want me to do? Before URA came in and there was this, because all these supermarkets had royalty cards, do you remember? So I speak to one of them and I say, do you know we can actually build a system that helps you have an appreciation of how Michael has changed his consumer behavior by the things he's consuming? And then the next question was, and how will that help me? Then I went on to tell him, I said, well, you'll be shocked because if you wanted to surprise me as a customer, that would be the point for you to surprise me. Because now you're able to see me not just as a number, but as an individual. And so the challenge I have for all of us is how do we demystify the value of data? And not just for research institutions, but for businesses, for local governments. Because the easier part is for us to do it from a research. It's very easy. Set up the AI lab, that's very easy. I see SEDAT has one, COSIS has one. Very soon we may find one in the College of Health Sciences. But how do we translate this practice beyond the science for it to work? So as we launch, there's excitement, but the work begins. The work begins. But ladies and gentlemen, to get us to this was not a miracle, it was hard work. And allow me invite Mr. Martin Mubanjizi. This gentleman you see has been working. You can even, I think even had a night here. But let's put a round of applause. Let's welcome him deservingly, because Martin has done incredible work. So Martin, thank you for steering the ship to this level, to this extent. I welcome. We can see Nita is now fully represented here, the chair, as well as the other board member, Dr. Binka, welcome. But allow me ask Martin to speak briefly about this journey, and then later we'll have Dr. Ernest Mwebaze to come and share with us about the roadmap. And so yes, welcome again, I was going to say Dr. Martin Mubanjizi, but it's not too late, eh?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And I would like to thank the PS. So the PS was supposed to be, physically here, but I think because, because of commitments that came up, she could not make it here. But we are happy that at least she was able to address us. So I'd like to recognize, the presence of the ED NITA, the principal college of, we call it COSIS at Makerere, the board members of NITA, the members of the interim Data Science Africa Uganda Committee, and representatives from the private sector, the UN. I know some people are online. So I'd like to thank you very much for, for making it. I know sometimes, there is a lot of work, and, getting a person to take off time for such a thing is really appreciated. So just to say that I'm going to give just a brief about Data Science Africa, and then Data Science Africa Uganda, but most of the things will be covered by our strategy lead, that is Dr. Ernest Mwebaze. So maybe just to start, my name is Martin Gordon Mubanjizi. I'm the General Chair for Data Science Africa Uganda, the interim Chair of Data Science Africa Uganda. We have Dr. Joyce Nabende, who is, I think, with us. She's our program chair. She also heads the Makerere Artificial Intelligence Lab. We have Professor Engineer Beino Mugisha, who is our academic coordinator. We have Dr. Ernest Mwebaze, who is our strategy lead. We have Dr. Daudi Jingo, who is our health sector coordinator. We have Maureen Amutorine. Where is Maureen? Who is our media and communications. We have Mr. Michael Nintegeka, who is the private sector coordinator. We have Osbat Osomai. Osbat from NITA, but he's our government coordinator. Then we have Muchibi Ivan from GIZ. He's an AI advisor for GIZ in Uganda, but he's our strategic partner. We have Claire Babirie, who is our secretary. And then we have Mr. Alvin Kabauma, who is our sponsorship chair, and he's from NSSF. Yeah, so Data Science Africa is a professional network, but it also has data science enthusiasts from around Africa, but even beyond Africa. And the aim is to try to build the capacity of Africans into these skills of machine learning, artificial intelligence, data visualizations, business intelligence, and all those skills that are basically related to data science. Because data science is a term that, covers all that, the computer visions you hear, deep learning, all that is basically data science. So way in 2015 is when we first had our event, and that was in Nyeri. And we started with a week-long event where we had 3 days of training, and then 2 days of workshop, where in the workshop people showcase like the work they are doing. So we have private sector, we have the UN presenting, we have civil society presenting, we have several presentations. And the last one that we had was in Arusha recently, a few weeks back, and it was, as you've heard from the PS, there were 7 countries represented from Africa, but we also had other friends from other countries participating. In Uganda, we last had Data Science Africa event in 2022 during COVID. We did the virtual version, but before that we had it in 2016. So, and normally these events, Uganda has participated, has always good representation in these workshops, in these events. But of course, not everyone can make it to Arusha. The other time we were in Ethiopia. The other time we were in Nigeria. The other time we were in Accra. So not everyone can really make it. So we thought it would be good to start up a local chapter here, such that we can reach many people. So we have been to 7 countries in Africa, but what we want to do now is to start going from one region to another, holding these events such that we can have more Ugandans skilled in these skills of data science. But more of this, Ernest will be taking us through what plans we have. But I would like to call upon people to join us and support us. But Ernest will be telling us ways that we think people can work with us. So before maybe I forget, I should say that I don't work for Data Science Africa Uganda, but I work for UN Global Pulse Lab, which is a UN initiative which was originally focusing on big data and artificial intelligence, but now we are widening our scope. We shall be looking at data, we shall be looking at innovation, digital transformation, behavioral science, and futures and foresight. And we shall be helping the UN to transform. So we shall be supporting the UN in its transformation. We shall be helping in developing global frameworks to ensure that we can maximize the potential or the benefits of technologies, not only AI, but technologies, but also minimize the risks that can come from these, and then also advance technology innovation. So those are the areas that UN Global Pulse will be focusing on. So with those few words, allow me to end here. And thank you for coming, and looking forward for the other sessions coming on. Thank you.
Heaven knows where we are going.
Thank you, Martin. And when you're introducing the committee, now because I know Ernest, I keep on calling him Ernest, then I remembered he's a doctor. So Dr. Ernest Mubanjizi, please come and share with us the roadmap. I hope if I stick longer to the committee, I also change the title soon. Maybe the principal college can say Michael an honorary, then Ernest.
Heaven knows where we
Thank you.
are.
This is all very formal. So I'm glad to be here. So the PS of Minister of ICT, if she's still with us, the board members of NITAU, the executive director, the principal of the College of Courses. I think we have members from the UN organizations here and several private sector organizations. Good morning and welcome to all of you. So I want to talk briefly about some plans we have of the strategy of Data Science Africa Uganda chapter. And hopefully my presentation can go up in a short while. Fantastic. So I'm called Ernest Mwebaze. I've had many portfolios, but right now I work as the ED of an organization called Sunbird AI. So we do artificial intelligence for social good, and I'm part of Data Science Africa. Let's see. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, fantastic. So the first thing I want us to do is to figure out how to say the acronym. I think the PS tried. So this acronym I can't say it, but this DSAU. So we need to find the right way of saying it. DSAU. No. We can pronounce it with a silent D or with a silent A. So, no. DSAU. No, DSAU is too long. So we need to pronounce the SAU, not the way you pronounce sausage, but the way you pronounce, I don't know if you know a famous perfume, the Dior Sauvage. So we need to use that so instead of the one of sausage. So Dissol, that's the name. French it up. Okay, so I'll talk briefly about the strategy. I'll talk a brief history of data science, the way I see it, a rudimentary history of data science, and then about the strategic outlook of Data Science Africa. DSO. All right, so what are we? We are a network of enthusiasts and individuals. So it's a network of hubs, a network of individuals, and a network of research hubs and private organizations. But mainly it's a network of individuals as we are here. So that's what we want to aim towards. And this idea of contextual end-to-end problem solving is something I think Michael talked about. You know, in the districts we have a different flavor of what data science should be. I think something the ED of NITAU talked about. So this idea of contextualizing data science to our local needs is very important. And we also have a local chapter of Data Science Africa, which is a larger body. It's been in existence since 2015 in different forms. And right now we are sort of managed by an interim committee, and we are non-partisan and non-governmental in a good way. All right, so what are the launch goals? So this is an introduction. So I thought there would be many software engineers here. So I thought I would spin it in a software engineering way so they understand, or we understand. So we want to do this process of building good software. You design, you code, you test, release, then you calibrate again. You do all this thing again. And we decompose this big process of setting up this organization into smaller processes. So this is a very academic way of putting this. The goal of doing this was to make sure people don't understand. But people try to think about what's on the slide. I figured out I was losing people. But generally, we want to build a professional organization, a professional network of individuals who are interested in data science and to promote its aims. So what is data science? I think Dr. Mugasa tried to explain this. I won't belabor it anymore, but I think exactly what he said is what is here. So data science is a confluence of many, many things, many skills. It's not just data alone. And I think this emphasis on domain knowledge is very important. So we should have doctors, farmers here. These are the people who want to impact with data science. And so there are many facets of data science. So I won't go into it too much, but suffice to say that this organization is very hard to build, quote unquote, a professional organization like an engineering association, the way we have engineering society. Because data science is so diverse, and we want to take care of this diversity. We want to harness that diversity. Computer scientists, software engineers, domain experts, social scientists, very important. So we want to cover all that in DSAU. All right, a very small background of data science in Uganda. So one was the Makerere lab, which was set up, a very long time ago. Almost in 2009, it sort of took shape and started growing from there. So this was the first example of how to use artificial intelligence. Then mainly it was artificial intelligence for solving social good. Almost in Africa, this was one of the first sort of hubs or research hubs focused on this. And from that, we saw growth in different forms. Second to come on board was the Pulse Lab, doing big data for government. And a lot of the staff came from the Makerere Hub to that. And then Data Science Africa, which formed by people from Makerere, people from the Pulse Lab, and people from within the region. And so this was sort of the first ideas of data science in this region. People trying to use data in different ways, and artificial intelligence and machine learning to tackle problems in our local setting. And right now, what has happened, things have exploded. As the PS said, we have so many things happening. Now we have several labs, research hubs doing AI and machine learning and data science. You have Busitema, you have Makoni Lab, you can see them here. You have several things. Mbara University has a data science lab. We have internationally, things have exploded. The 4IR, we're on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, which has AI as a key theme. The AI strategy, the government of Uganda, I think the ED talked about it. Digital transformation is a big thing in NDP3. There's a big move towards data science. This is, I think, the main point of these slides. Universities, we have the principal here introducing new courses on data science and machine learning. So there's a lot of big drive in this field, and this is partly the reason why Data Science Africa Uganda chapter is setting up. All right. So we want to galvanize a network of data science enthusiasts. I won't belabor that. And how did we come to this? So Michael talked about a whole year of doing this. It was actually more than a year. We started this idea of how do we come up to a launch. And we started with different, as you can see that the date shifted quite a bit. We started with several pre-launch events in several regions of the country. That map sort of shows people from the different regions, and Martin talked about this. These were online events during COVID. They were attended massively by over 300, 200 people. And they involved presentations of people doing contextual work in these different places, about data science, sort of driving the need to come to this. We've also had 2 data science skills assessment workshops, and these are culminating in courses, which I'll talk about a bit later. We've also had so many meetings to try and set this up and understand what we really want to do. All right, so the goals of the launch. So very simply in this launch, we want to create this inclusive process of initializing this network. And that's why you're all here, and that's why we have so many people online. We want to discuss, want to talk, and have ideas of how we do this. And then feedback, buy-in, and a bit of a mandate. The PS has given us a mandate, blessed by the ED, and so we have the permission to go ahead. All right, so I'll just talk a bit about what we see as the future going ahead, what is called the roadmap, or more aptly, the strategy. And I'll talk about these sort of key areas. So one is the structure. How do we envisage the structure? And these are things we want to discuss here. How do we envisage the structure of DSO, Data Science Africa Uganda chapter? So the essence or the core of it will be a network. So we really want a network or an association, but more a network than an association of individuals, hubs, and organizations. So I came to Rotary, those who are in Rotary. I know Michael will make a comment after this, but I came to Rotary. Formally, we want to set up a social enterprise, but Uganda doesn't have, luckily we have Arthur here from the Uganda Registration Bureau. So Uganda doesn't formally have a vehicle for a social enterprise, so we would need to set up something akin to that. So something either a company limited by guarantee or a foundation. This is the structure we're thinking of setting up data science. We want to be inclusive in our representation, but non-governmental. So this is the way we think the best way to work with government is to be non-governmental. A bit of a paradox, but it's been proven to work. And then the advisory board, and this is where we really want to work with government, different intergovernmental bodies, and of course we'll have the parent link to Data Science Africa. So this is how we want to structure data science, and would really appreciate comments on this. Membership, how do we envisage membership? So membership will mainly be individual, right? But then we also have university research hubs that can be members of Data Science Africa, and then corporate memberships. Like there's so many innovative organizations in the innovation hub here, private sector, the big players like NSSF. So those can be corporate membership, corporate members of Data Science Africa. And how will subscription be? So membership will be premised on a subscription, which will be a token subscription. By token, we mean you have to pay. But we're not paying to buy a car, we're paying something small. We're paying to buy a tire or fuel. Fuel is a key thing. Maybe fuel is understandable. So there will be a minimal payment. And this mainly is to create a buy-in, that people buy into this organization. They have some skin in the game. I think psychologically this seems to work best for this kind of networks. And this would be different for members, individuals, for corporate organizations, for research hubs. And then, of course, the related value proposition that the organization will give you, and I will talk about this a bit more. And so the kind of questions we're asking, things around in-kind subscription. What does it mean to be a corporate member? So want NSSF to join, but want individual members within NSSF to also join as individuals. So when you leave NSSF, you're still a member. So what are the member activities of Data Science Africa, Uganda? So these are activities that the members enjoy. So one is research seminars. And these are already ongoing in some form with research hubs at the universities. One is open, so members can go and attend. There's an announcement. There's a rota. There's a timetable. People know about the topics that are being discussed, that they are topical topics, and people can attend these research seminars. We're talking about continuous professional development. I think they changed the term then, but I think the essence is continual professional development of the members of Data Science Africa. And this will take forms of regular meetups, where we get experts to come and present about topical issues in data science. We are keen on an annual summer school. In Uganda, the context is really wet and dry season, so maybe a wet school, I don't know, dry school. But the idea of a summer school where we have some training and a workshop. This is borrowing from Data Science Africa. We definitely want this. And this would be geographically located so that we can sort of know what people are doing in different places. And then different access to opportunities, jobs, etc. So these are opportunities or activities of members who are in the organization. DSAU as an organization will also have corporate undertakings, so things that the organization does outside its members. And things like paid corporate training, and this can be consumed by members or non-members. We have courses or programs. These are sort of longer term courses, maybe 3 months on data science, and this could be contextualized, whichever, targeted differently. But mainly post-university courses, bridging courses for professionals who want to understand or change their careers, understand some things. Then we'll have geek sessions. So the geek sessions are, I think when you came in, someone said the data scientists tend to be young. But these are sessions where you want to bring people in. They can code up something, a hackathon, a datathon, the exciting stuff. And then projects. So as an organization, we want to do projects. Get funding and do actual projects or consultancies. And then social undertakings. Since we're a network of individuals, we want to have somewhere we give back to society in a non-profit way. Comms and engagement, we definitely want to create awareness of data science. I think as a community, we want to have a voice. So we want to engage with government, with different organizations as a voice, as one voice. We want periodic publications, and we have this idea. The point number 3 is very important. We want to publish an index, and partly this is why we want to be quote-unquote non-governmental. We want to be an independent body that does bits of evaluation. So evaluating things like data science, which organizations have sort of consumed data science in a more realistic way throughout the year. Who's the key data scientist in Uganda, for example? Which organization, which local government? And we think awards is a way to create awareness, but also make sure people strive towards something, all their efforts are recognized. And we want to do this. And then exhibitions, social gatherings, football matches, I don't know. We want to be in the cricket oval, data science, chivuru, they call it chivuru, And the cricket oval, we want to lock the cricket oval down with data science. Okay, and then lastly, fundraising. So how will we raise money to do this? So we want to raise money through membership. We want to do it through corporate undertakings, projects, consultancies, grants, donations. So the idea of donations is also to create a membership profile. So if the principal of the College of Computing wants to donate to data science and wants to give us, 100 million, we recognize him specially. I'm hoping, he's going to be here. He may tell us something. Let's wait. But also other things, lapels, merchandise related to the organization. And maybe expense lines. So we thought this was important to highlight in case people think we are eating their money. So we want to spend, how do we want to spend the money or the things we care about? So one is maintaining the network. So this is office admin, finance, social events. Then corporate projects that we do as Data Science Africa, social undertakings, and this could be drives to sponsor data science in secondary schools or fund university research, things like scholarships for students wanting to do data science, micro grants, and then community projects. So if as an organization we can say we are going to Uganda, local government, what do you have in terms of data? What can we do? And we do a project there that lasts, 3 months, have a matching grant, and we do something there. They can collect their market data now because of an app we've created or something like that. So we want to do community projects to impact society. So these are sort of the things we want to spend your money on. And the cricket of course. All right, so the roadmap. So the roadmap, we want to do and this is sort of the last slide. I see Mike was looking at me unpleasantly. So we want to formalize data science. That's the next step in the next 3 months. We want to formally register Data Science Africa now that we have the permission from the authorities. We want membership, so we want people to subscribe. So we want to have a way we can do membership easily, and then we want to start network activities. So within a year, we want to have had several activities. We want to be having our annual conference and want you to come back and join us for this. So thank you very much. So data science is a big deal, and we want to have our voice heard earlier on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernest. Thank you for ably showing the roadmap, that this is not just an event that you're having or that we are having, but rather it is something that we're very intentional about, thinking about structure and processes. And so, because of the process and the journey that has been started, I'm going to invite the chair of NITAU, Honorable, please, if you could come. We're going to unveil the Data Science Africa Uganda logo as part of the launch process, together with the ED, the principal of the college, and the other board members of NITA who are here. Please make your way up here. I will invite Flavia, please make your way, and the organizing committee to witness. Chris, please make your way on behalf of the UN to witness this unveiling process, this is symbolic to ribbon cutting. Martin, you need to be up here as well. Yeah. Okay. So, engineer, professor, you need to be up here, boss, for accountability purposes. Yeah. Okay, so Joyce is protesting, but I will allow you to protest in silence. But now that I've called your name out, so this is how it's going to run. So Ernest is going to blow, and the thing will just open up. I'm kidding. Now serious business. So I'm going to invite the chair, together with the ED, to probably find a way of technically standing to unveil. and then the rest of us, okay? On a count of 1 and 2 and 3, there we go. Data Science Africa Uganda is launched, unveiled. So we have, so the two things we have an acronym and how we pronounce it. We have a logo, and that we're not doing badly at all from a launch perspective. So can we find of organizing ourselves for a proper photo? The photographer, who is the main photographer, please guide us on how you want it done. So thank you very much for having this done. I think the team behind this logo can now move it. We will find an office to have it, or we can pay for some rent at the hub here, just to keep it here, so that people get to know the hub is a data science space. So ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, I'm going to invite our keynote speaker, and I will ask, I think the best person to introduce our keynote speaker is Martin Mubanjizi. Please come and introduce our keynote speaker, and then after that we'll have the panel conversation. Yeah, we're trying to be data-driven even in this program.
Yeah, so thanks, Michael. So our keynote speaker today is Dr. Williams Waswa. He has a lot of titles, but he's one of he's a member of the high-level panel. He's a member of the African Union high-level panel on emerging technologies, and currently the panel is, the high-level panel is looking at developing an AI strategy. It's called the African Union AI Continental Strategy. So I think Uganda is very lucky to have such a person on a 10-member panel for the whole of African Union, and he's here in our midst and is going to give us, deliver his keynote speech. Dr. William, you're welcome.
Clapping, I feel happy because she has mentored me. So good morning, everyone. So all protocols observed. I'm really so happy. I'm humbled to be here. Allow me to express. Allow me to express my sincere gratitude to really be happy, and thank you for the opportunity. I really thank the entire organizing committee and the entire DSA and DSA Uganda for really organizing this timely event. I'm delighted to see the passion of all Ugandans, especially those that are here, with how they are really interested in seeing to see how data science can really help improve our social status in Uganda. So I'm called Dr. Waswa William, as I've been introduced. I'm a senior lecturer at Mbara University of Science and Technology. I'm a biomedical engineer, and I lead the Advanced Medical Imaging and Artificial Intelligence Lab at Mbara University of Science and Technology. And I'm privileged to be among the 10 panel of experts in Uganda, in Africa, that was appointed by the African Union to really help member states on how to harness emerging technologies to improve Africa's status quo. So I'm happy to also let you know that I'm the chair of the African Union high-level panel on AI strategy for Africa, where we are developing a continental strategy to see how Africa can actually better use and adopt AI. So the African Union high-level panel on emerging technologies is the think tank for African Union. It provides a lot of advisory and technical support to African member states, its organs, to see how we can actually leverage on artificial intelligence, 3D printing, 5G, IoT for the benefit of the Africa. So the African Union, or the APET, which is sometimes abbreviated as APET, it really provides advice on AU and its member states on harnessing emerging technologies for economic development. So it provides an opportunity for the continent to leverage on current and emerging innovations and technologies that have high potential of impact in Africa. So APET advises African Union, member states, and its organs on how to harness innovations and emerging technologies for socio-economic development. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Goal 1 of Africa's 50-year Agenda 2063 strategy is a high standard of living, quality of life, and well-being for all citizens. And priority areas on this include incomes, jobs, and decent work. Science, technology, and innovation has potential of helping Africa achieve this and create employment opportunities for the youth. So dear, let us look at these technologies as opportunities for solving local challenges and consequently becoming job creators. We can become job creators using the emerging technologies. When we talk about the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT, 5G, 3D printing, these have a lot of potential in solving our local challenges and also becoming job creators. AI has potential of impact in several ways. It has been held by many as a transformative force for African societies, with a lot of promising results to reduce poverty, improve access to public services like health, education, but deployment of these innovations or these technologies really require a lot of support from different stakeholders, including our governments and its organs. So these challenges, like I said, harnessing these technologies currently has a lot of challenges, including lack of enough experts, limited ICT infrastructure, and also lack of available data sets to really provide for this. For example, when we are launching Data Science Africa, we really want to use data for a lot of insights, but currently we still have a shortage of having this data available for this type of research. So I call upon the government of Uganda to implement and scale homegrown solutions, because from our preliminary work, we have actually seen that Africa is not short of innovations. So every time I see calls from the ministry, call for innovations, sometimes I actually say there should even be no call for innovations, because we have a lot of innovations. But what's really lacking is scaling up these innovations, adopting these innovations, and also empowering the private sector to benefit from these innovations or these initiatives. So there's really a need to set up infrastructures for private startups so that actually you can empower these startups to become job creators, as opposed to only supporting high-level institutes for education, where we have most of these actually wonderful innovations just being showcased and kept in universities without necessarily transforming into local solutions that can solve some of our challenges. So from APET engagements, APET, like I said, is the acronym for the high-level panel on emerging technologies. With different innovators from the African continent, we have learned more of the challenges that our innovators face in Africa. We have identified and provided a database of African innovators, and I'm happy to note that we have a number of innovators from Uganda that are profiled. We have identified innovations from Africa that are different development stages, profiled key stakeholders to help harness Africa to improve or utilize the emerging technologies like AI, 3D printing, 5G, and all these. So we have developed high-level reports with experts in this field, and I'm happy that I think I've interacted with Martin, where he was consulted as an expert in data science. So I really acknowledge your support and Pulse Lab. So we have identified different experts from the African continent and written or proposed and developed strategies for Africa on how they can harness these emerging technologies. So specifically looking at 5 pillars. For example, the artificial intelligence continental strategy is currently looking at 5 pillars, and these include human resource. So how could we improve our curriculum? How could we improve our education systems in Africa to ensure that people don't hear of AI when they are at university? People should not hear about data science when they are on at university. These are concepts that should be introduced to our kids at an early stage. So we are looking at how African nations could actually benefit from an improved education curriculum that could benefit or introduce these type of emerging technologies like 3D printing at an early stage. We are looking at data foundations and using AI. We are looking at the AI economy, enabling environment for AI development, and also building sustainable partnerships for Africa on how to sustain and build emerging technologies like AI. So APEC believes that channeling science, technology, and innovations into specific African challenges can effectively lead to job creation for youth across the African continent, and Africa can achieve the innovation and technology-based socio-economic transformation to benefit Africa's youth according to the aspirations of the African Union Agenda 2063, and also the Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategy for Africa, which is known as TCA 2024. So dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy and humbled to be here. I'm so grateful that we are actually having these type of establishments in Uganda, and I'm happy that Uganda is part of DS Africa, and they have worked with other initiatives like AI Indaba. I think you have interacted with AI Indaba. These are really established intercontinental strategies that can help empower a lot of Africans on how to use these technologies to better suit and solve our local challenges. So thank you so much, Chair and Organizing Committee. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Sometimes it's exciting to see your own in places where they're influencing. And so, Dr. Williams Waswas, thank you very much for representing Uganda. And when you have people in places of influence, you also walk with your head high because, yeah, you know, we're not just doing stuff, we're also influencing at very technical level. Now, looking at our schedule, we're supposed to have a panel conversation. And so I'm going to request, I know Dr. Waswa, I had not briefed you on this, but based on what you've shared, I would love to invite you back to the panel so that we continue this conversation on some of the issues that you have raised. So with your permission, Martin, if we can get this off the stage, so that we're able to have the panel members well presented.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there.
Okay, so this panel is going to have, now just to have a disclaimer before we get started. This panel is going to have a heavy academic presence, but also tells you the practice to an extent has largely been in that space. So when you see, don't say, but are there other people who can talk about data science? No, we're going to even move in that direction. So allow me to invite Dr. Waswa. Williams, please come and take your seat. Dr. Hatwib, the Executive Director, NITA, please come and take your seat. Professor Oyana, the Principal, College of Computing and Information Sciences, take your seat. Dr. Godliver Omsha, please come take your seat. Dr. Godliver Omsha, thank you. And Chris from the UNCDF, UN Capital Development Fund, please do take your seat. Yeah, so I will, just to be a bully, I will keep standing. Also because from a teaching background, I always want to have visibility. Sometimes when you're moderating panels, you want to be able to have that conversation. And I would like to, first of all, give my panel a round of applause for taking time to be part of this. So we're going to have a conversation that is three-part. One, I'll pick their insights. Two, you will have questions. Three, we will wind up. And after that, we go for the exhibition, do the networking, and then lunch. And I start to clap for lunch, so you can go. Lunch is ready. So allow me to start from my extreme. And the conversation we are having this morning is how do we harness data and artificial intelligence for Uganda's socio-economic development? It may seem more of the norm in terms of some of these themes, but I'd like us to speak to what does it mean to each one of us in the work that we do? How do we harness data and artificial intelligence? So do introduce yourselves, and then speak to the theme, how do we harness data and artificial intelligence that then leads to the transformation of this country? We contribute, because we don't want to claim that data and artificial intelligence will be the only driver to transform this country, but contribute to the transformation of this country. So I'll start with Chris. You can do a mic check. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Chris Lucolio. I'm the digital country lead for UNCDF in Uganda. It's a really interesting thing to be talking about data science. Let me just give some context here real quick. At UNCDF, you will hear us talk very much about digital inclusion. You'll hear us talk about those in danger of being left behind. And I think it's a common theme for all of us. But rarely do you hear us talk about all the data that's generated as we strive to use digital platforms, digital service offerings. And even with these rural communities, so in the UN we talk about, yes, those in danger of being left behind need to be included in development. But think about all the data that's generated. So I'm hoping that in today's discussion, Michael touched on how you have a lot of academia as the focus for this discussion, because usually innovation actually starts there, conversations start there. But I'm hoping that I can bridge that, I can bridge the gap between academia and practical field application. How do we take all that data that's generated with these platforms to better serve those who otherwise might be left out of this discussion? Think about all those online, those of you in the room, your credentials, But then think about the refugee communities or the rural farmers. How can we leverage all this data that's generated to better serve them? And so it's really, really a pleasure to be part of this discussion. I'm hoping that we can talk about, again, the different tools we're using, the different applications in analyzing this data to better deliver services, and hopefully get more people to appreciate the value that indeed this data has, but also the practice of data science in better delivering services for those who otherwise might be left out of this discussion, but also left out of national development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Dr. Godliver? Yeah, it's on. Yeah, it should be good.
Thank you very much, Michael, and audience today. Yeah, so I'm Godliver Omugisha, a senior lecturer at Busitema University, and also a senior researcher there. And I represent the Artificial Intelligence Lab, and also from the Makerere University side. So talking about going back to the question that you've posed, Michael, I think that academia has a very, very big role in this drive, because if you look at in the past, maybe the past decade, or how the different courses academia, that institutions had in line with artificial intelligence and data science, I think it was not it was not yet very clear, or the vision was not very, very clear. But today's world and also society problems that we have, I think academia has a very big role. And as institutions, we try to train our students to get skills that also try to show them problems that they should be solving in the real world societies, and also bridging the gap, bridging the gap between academia and also the industry, because usually you find we used to have students who are filled with these skills, but they don't know how to apply them. So if you look at some of the challenges we are trying to tackle lately is compared also to what my previous speakers said, looking into challenges, e.g. like agriculture, looking into what's happening in our country, in our cities. I think there is so much that we can do, and it's the role of Data Science Africa to help us strategize these things so that we can be on the same goal. Yeah, that's what I can say for now. Yeah.
I know. Thank you, Dr. Godliver. I know, Dr. Hatwib, you had given your remarks, but I think in this context, it's largely around the role or the opportunity of working with all these people from a government perspective. What does that look like? As you also give your introductory remarks, I just thought you'd speak to that as well.
Thank you, Michael. And I will speak on the side of government. But I first want to explain what data means to the ordinary citizen, the Omuntu Wawansi. And yesterday I was with, we were in a meeting where, as you know, we are trying to see the best, or the design of the best design for the new ID, the new national ID. And one of the top officials in the meeting said, but why do we need to give IDs to everyone? My grandmother in the village, when she got her ID, as soon as she got the ID, she wrapped it in a kavera, in a plastic bag. She really secured it and kept it, and she has never taken it out ever since. It's almost coming to, I think it's now 8 years ever since she got her ID, and she has never removed it from that polythene bag. And she was saying, why do we need to give IDs, national IDs, to some people like that? it all ties down to data.
Yeah.
Data. That national ID has information. That is a building block. It's the foundation for now the artificial intelligence. All other products that we want to build onto, the person, how do we identify a person? And from the person, now we build services. We build those blockchains, all the other financial services, transport services, NSSF, almost every service within government and even the private sector ties down to an individual. Without that individual, we don't have an economy. But how do we define the individual? We can only identify him through the national ID. So as government of Uganda, if we don't have that enabling environment, then we have failed the other services that are up the chain. So government of Uganda is providing an enabling environment that will now have that will enable data science and its subcomponents, artificial intelligence. All the other subcomponents now can flourish from this enabling environment. Without that, then we are not going to achieve our targets. So government of Uganda is trying to get that service efficient. If we're getting a national ID, it should be, we are citizens, we cannot deny them that privilege. So we need to provide the service to the citizens, and once we do that, then everything now falls into place. At NITA, I just wanted to speak more about the authority that leading at NITA. Yes, once that baseline has been formed, now how do we connect it to the other services? We can't get, there are so many, I believe, innovation groups, there are so many organizations, there are so many products that would want to harness this information. But all of them coming all at once to I say now, let's just keep one example, national ID, everyone coming to NIRA, that will create a bottleneck. So even if we create that baseline, we need to also create that second level, the second level of service delivery, and that's now the integration bus. So we have rolled out an integration bus that will enable now the citizens, private and public sector, to come and pick up this information, this data, and make sense out of it. When it's just not only national ID, but now even government data. We're connecting all data sets across government to be utilized both by government and private sector. Thank you very much.
You can see the model, or did you see it? Guys, we need to be present. No, but yeah, I think what you're trying to raise, and I like the example that you use of the integration bus and making sure that everybody is picking and tapping into that. And I think for me, which now comes to Professor Oyana, as well as you introduce yourself, you have Busitema, you have Makere AI Lab, and I think for me, the question, but also the opportunity to speak about the leadership, the college taking the leadership in this crusade. To you, Professor Oyana.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Tony Oyana. I'm a professor of GIS and spatial analysis, and I'm also college principal. I want to start my conversation slightly in a different way, and I will start with Ernest, because this is an initiative that is starting for Uganda, by suggesting that ethical concerns are very, very important, and I would like to see in the objective of this chapter that we pay attention to ethical consideration. Is a very important aspect of data science. You know, you can beat data to death and it will tell you the story you are looking for. And sometimes in that process, there are ethical issues that come up. So we have obligations to our community here in Uganda and obligations to the discipline that we pay attention to ethical concerns. And I would suggest that that should be a key aspect in the objectives of this chapter. Having said that, I want to begin at the entry point of the concept of data science, and then I will look at the role different institutions like Makerere University can do. In its basic essence, data is just observations in their raw form. And the data that we have access to occurs in three formats: structured, that is in databases; unstructured, which is very common too; and semi-structured, in between structured and not structured. So that's how we approach the data that is there. Let's say I want to look at the conversations that are going on WhatsApp. That is unstructured data. So the reason why I even pointed at ethical concerns, there are traditional ways how we handle data. One of them is, first of all, trying to organize that unstructured data so that I can think through and make sense of the observations. Because fundamentally, science is about understanding and making sense of those observations. Okay? We should not forget that. That is very generic. Okay? So, how do institutions come in? I would say that one of the scientific obligations is to make observations, and we can make them either numerical or non-numerical. Okay? So we are at the center of it. So it is not an accident that the data science work is taking place in academia. We add a lot of value to it. And I think the universities in Uganda, Makerere University being a champion and a pioneer, Busitema, in Arua, you saw the map that was presented. It showed the location of those universities that are playing a leading role in data science. So I think the partnership that universities bring in, one, we have the knowledge, the techniques, and the tools to lead in this effort. Secondly, we can also create new knowledge so that we help with the decision-making process. And thirdly, the training role, to increase the critical mass that we need to move this data science concept in the country and in the region. Already, as Ernest stated, our artificial intelligence lab has been around since 2009 and has been leading very good efforts. Okay? So I think we have a critical role to play in this conversation of data science and adding value to things here in Uganda. And we already have agencies that produce and generate large quantities of data. One of them being MTN, Airtel. They produce data every second. Okay, people are making phone calls. Transactions that continue in banks can also be looked at. The mere person that the person goes to the ATM to withdraw money, we can look at those data streams in real time. So I think universities, in their critical role of being research and development institutions, have a role at the table, and they can help the conversation of data science and how we can take advantage of that technology and develop Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I like that we are dealing with foundational issues, because it's the easiest thing to assume that all the things have been taken care of. But the fact that we are having these conversations and we are dealing with foundational issues also speaks to the realization about the profession that is emerging and the practice around it. And so for me, to you, Dr. Waswa, as you're introducing yourself, you have a biomedical background. So you're speaking from a largely health perspective, but also because you're dealing with biomedical, you're dealing with medical, you also deal with numbers in health, if I could put it that way. And so picking on from Professor Oyana is this translation. The translation, the use of data to translate and improve service. Because at the end of it all, you can do all the charm number cranking and deliver models that make exceptional products, if I could put it that way. If it does not translate, like Dr. Hatwib said, omuntu wa wansi, that when I come, I feel that you have used this data to benefit me, it remains more of an academic process. So how do we move to the translation? How do we move to the application?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Actually, I think Prof has raised 2 points that I also had. My points, just relating to what Michael have said, actually around data standardization and trainings. Me, from my background, because I'm also an entrepreneur, I do have a private company and does a lot of commercialization and implementation of some of the research. But one of the things I've noted is the standardization. Recently, there's a hospital I visited, and we wanted to deploy our next-gen HIMSS integrated management software for hospital. Ideally, they were already using a software, but when you tried to change from this system to the new system, you couldn't almost use data. So because of that lack of data standardization, what you are talking about, structuring this data, as companies are now trying to see, okay, how do we really translate this research into real impactful solutions? So there's that gap of actually now switching from the research to the actual implementation. And this, in the future, we're going to have a lot of data in Uganda, but that is not usable. This data will not be actually able to support these models. If you go to Google or Amazon, there are a lot of artificial intelligence data science models that have already been developed. Actually developing these models is easy, but the problem is getting the data. So as now many hospitals, supermarkets, schools have these softwares that have been developed by companies which are certified, registered, but they lack that standardization. So for me, my plea is to NITA you also, to ensure that as we certify these companies, we think about standardization. What are you actually working on? Which software do you produce? Are these softwares standardized? Do you use open standards? Is it L7 compliant? Because we are actually giving these softwares to the public and they are happy. But now when these new technologies are coming and you want to use this data is actually not usable. So I think data standardization is key, and it is something that our private companies should be empowered. So the other part is on training. These emerging technologies are not technologies for the scientists, for those who have studied physics and math. They are technologies for everyone. So clinicians, business people, social workers should actually have these concepts of data science, so that even when they think about collecting data, they actually know this data can be used. So the way academia, we need to ensure that data science is a cross-cutting course, not only for computer science and physics, but even medicine, they should actually be able to have at least an introduction to data science. Even if it's business administration, they should have an introduction to data science. If we could have data science well appreciated by everyone, then data science and these other technologies can really be able to have impactful contribution to our society. So the same is at the stage. Very many universities in Africa have data science, artificial intelligence at master's or PhD level. So ideally, most of these people who you are introducing to data science concepts have jobs, have families, have a lot of other responsibilities, and you are introducing high concepts to them. Ideally, they were not going to be able to do anything. They're just about finishing a PhD, write a paper, publish, and that's all. So if we could have these high concepts introduced to first years, second years, and you're able to talk about artificial intelligence in my first year, by the time these people come back for masters, they're actually developing solutions. When they are doing PhD, they actually have developed microscopes, have patented devices, because I got these concepts at an early stage. When I was doing my PhD, I was just implementing devices. But if a person is doing PhD and they are hearing about structured data for the first time, these are just going to finish, publish a paper. So I think as academia, we need to ensure that you have this training introduced at an early stage. Let these trainings try to move out of the academic institution to private. Let us train, NITAU, please have trainings for these companies. You certify us, but then you should always be training. How is your data? You have the data protection law, but actually, do you know about it? Okay, do you implement it? So how can we make sure that this data can actually be used by the other person and they're able to benefit? If we send messages, there's a company that developed a software and they were sending messages to patients. It was a message sent to a patient, but it was very open. So are these companies trained that even when you want to engage the other person to see the use of data science by sending them reminders, don't tell them you come for HIV drugs. How are these messages well tailored? So I think it's about training at academic institution and also having data standardized so that you just don't have a lot of too much useless data, but very few data that is useful. Thank you.
I think what I pick from you is it's not just data, but is it data that I can use to make meaning? And so I like to pick on you, Godliver, and ask a question, because, and not in any way to demean the location of the university, but from everybody here, all the other, yeah, maybe Williams is in Barada, but if you look at it from, let's say, the context of Busitema, you're now in Busitema in that eastern region. How do we move to this? How do we work with that shop? How do we work with that circle to standardize this data?
Thank you very much. I think, okay, I'll first say that actually Busitema, we are located in the eastern part of Uganda, those who don't know where we are. And by our location, we are actually very, very advantaged to influence on the rural communities. Apparently, we already work with, actually with a group of farmers in that area. And they are responding well to the tools that we gave them. Those were agricultural tools for crop monitoring. So talking about data standardization, I think it's a tricky one, but I would say it will really start with the organization. Like we have like a standardized, I would say, setup that whereby other organizations can easily tap and also contribute to a joint data set. So I think it's not the role of an individual, like maybe say organization, but we should have like a system that allows many organizations to contribute to a given data set. And also data sharing, like if we have this data shared to the public, so that they also know if they are to contribute to the same data, which format, which would help other people benefit from it. So I think the issue of data sharing, openness with the resources, and like code and programs across universities. Yeah, so I think that would be very key in promoting this space of standardization. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I like the fact that you're already working with farmers, and for me, brings me to Chris. Chris, the work that you're involved in is work around inclusion and digital inclusion. And I'd like to pick on the experience that you so far have working in these communities. What are some of the things that you could highlight in terms of the experiences that you've gotten working with, let's say, the circles under the digital financial inclusion spaces, but also in education, data literacy or digital literacy, what are some of those things that we need to be aware of as we think and begin to make this a reality? I mean, you had Dr. Atwib mentioning that there's this lady who got her national ID, put it in a Kavera, and it's precious to the extent that nobody should even access it. But yet, we know that's the truth in very many communities. Chris.
Thank you so much. And many thanks to other panel members. I think there's a lot of expertise here. And I think that how we bridge that gap, so from my experience, it comes down to value addition. Okay, so again, when we talk about all the data that we generate as we use different digital platforms, I think a very good example was given about MTN, all this data that's generated. And when people use these different platforms, so somebody might send and receive money, but that might not be the value that they seek. You know, they might say, look, why don't you just pay me in cash? It's easier, I can pay my debts. So we have the opportunity, as we look at data science, we have the opportunity to generate value. We have the opportunity to show what people get out of this, and I really love the reference to the common man, right? Omuntu wawansi. How do we translate the things that we're talking about here into real day-to-day value? How does my grandmother or his mother get to understand why that ID is important? And so it's in the value that we show in the use cases that come out of these efforts. When you analyze this data, when you deploy these tools, when you deploy AI and all the data science, that the expertise that's in this room, how does that translate to a useful use case in somebody's day-to-day life? Okay? And so what I've seen in the field is that more and more often people ask about, well, it loosely translates to what do I get? Why should I care? And I think we can do that by constantly engaging in these different communities, in these different markets. I liked Annette's presentation about all the things that we hope to do through this forum, through this chapter in Uganda. We should indeed focus on, yes, the ethics of using this data and how we use it responsibly. But I'd like to add, let's stay in touch. Go down to these communities, constantly engage with that border guy. Go to these refugee communities, talk to rural farmers. You will know the things they care about, and then you can work backwards to say, wait a minute, how do I fix this problem? So from the experience that we've seen, that I see in the field, that's where I think that's where the value could be. And when we talk about, all right, there's all this data generated from, use of our phones or use of different types of media, I think that it's important to go back and say, all right, yes, I've developed this application that allows you to, I'm analyzing all this data, and I think that when you're growing coffee, this is the time you should plant. I've analyzed all this data, and when you're ready to sell, here is the market you should sell to. I think we should also take into account, indeed, when these individuals start to use these platforms, yes, what do I press? Where do I go? So incorporate, as we build solutions, develop them with these target communities in mind. The end result should be in their language, in the way they understand. That me as a lay person, I don't know how machine learning works, but I will appreciate the result of that effort. I will appreciate the data science that has gone into it, not because I understand it, but because I know what I'm getting out of it. I don't know if that makes sense. Thank you so much.
That's quite interesting. That look, it's not just the product that comes out of it, but when that product comes out of it, I can use it. that once I have been able to deploy it, it makes a lot of sense for me as a business person, for me as a farmer, for me. I mean, this morning I had on radio the Minister of State for Finance General Duties was being quizzed by Parliament, and they were saying, when is the money for parish development model going? And his response was, very soon. and the Speaker responded and said, but what is very soon? And he says, Madam Speaker, for those circles that are ready, the money will be released soon. He says, but the planting season is here. When will the money get to the parishes or to the circles so that the community can borrow and then buy the seed or the seedling and then go ahead and plant? Because this is the window. You miss it, you miss it. And he said, I think for me, it just caught my attention. I'm like, but wait a minute. Did this just happen? Like we're now realizing the rains are here? Did it just happen? So as you're sharing in terms of context, and I guess that's why sometimes good initiatives don't get the right reception, because the value, you give me seedling when we're already past the rain season. So what do you want me to do with the seedling? There's nothing much I can do about it. Which brings me to, and I think I'd like to speak to Dr. Hatwib around getting government, which William talked about, standardization, and making this data available to as many users as possible. And without putting you on the spot, you have on one side the UBOS saying we're not ready for parish development model rollout because the data is not sufficient. And on the other side, politicians are saying, wait a minute, we are going ahead. So how do we harmonize these conversations using data? But also most important that I'd like you to speak to is that how do we leverage the power of this community to create data leadership? I know I'm making sense. That people in leadership have an appreciation of data. They may not be the guys who are going to do the number crunching, but they have a level of appreciation that it has to be data informed. What is data? It's not a gut feeling. I feel it. No. What is the data telling us? Dr. Hatwib.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. And that's true. How do we get this data used well or used for the purpose? How do we make it fit for the purpose? That is data governance. But I just want to touch on the standardization that William had mentioned. And true, we need to standardize. We need to standardize the way we work. We can't just deploy a system with no standard. It's like saying drive on the road and don't follow traffic rules. That's what we will be doing. So we need to standardize to a level that enables the IT service developers, IT service providers, provide services efficiently, and the citizens or the end user consume these services without being cheated. NITA has developed a couple of IT standards and laws over the years. I just wanted to mention some of the standards that we have at NITA. We have got the Electronic Transactional Act, the Electronic Signature Act, the Data Protection and Privacy Act. We have a cyber security or cyber information security framework that governs the way how we secure our information. And we've got others. We have also got a standardization unit. Now this checks bodies that want to do business with government of Uganda, because we cannot, if you're private body, say company A and company B, we will not know what transaction you have unless you come to government or there's a government arm. But when you come to government, all transactions or all procurement has to come to NITA if it's an IT procurement. And NITA will review that procurement of the IT service or IT product. Does it follow standards? So we have got the IT certification unit. It has got certification standards. There are companies we certify also. We have certified over 500 IT service providers in Uganda. And we encourage all IT service providers that want to do business with Uganda, or even within the private sector, to come to NITA and we standardize. Why do we do this? We have had cases where you procure a service. You say you are buying, let's take a simple service. You are buying a laptop, and the service provider brings for you a desktop. Who do you go to? Who do you go to? So we are there to ensure that you get the service that you have procured or that you have asked for. And it has to be to the best standards within the market. So there are a couple of standards that we have rolled out, but to come to your question, how do we make it fit for purpose, this data? We have put the structures there, the standards are there. Now how do we ensure that you're actually receiving or extracting what you need from this data? And that was the recent law, the Data Protection and Privacy Act. It mandates you to provide, there are data collectors, there are data processors, and the data consumers. All those have to be answerable to what they are doing. So that standard or that law governs you how you are to collect this data. It also governs the way you are processing it, the data processors. You don't ask for my mother's email address if you're going to collect tax from her. Or some places there, I know when I walked in here, they were asking for my email address. I said, why? Do you want to send me an email? I rejected. So there's something that we are learning. Yes, we are coming from a place of zero. We are at zero, but we are building onto that. So some information that is personal should not be collected unless you can explain why, you can justify why you need that personal information. So with that, that's a first building block. But now, how it's going to be processed and how we can use artificial intelligence and all the other 4IRs technologies, how shall we use that? Blockchain, I know you have heard of blockchain. I think blockchain is a misunderstood concept. Blockchain is not Bitcoin. So we should also understand that and build standards for how we shall utilize blockchain. We should not just rush into it without understanding it. Yes, thank you very much.
You mentioned something, and I was taken aback yesterday. I was filling a bank form, and on that form was a request, a field that asks for my mother's name. I filled it, but I had a struggle trying to ask the bank, so how does my mother come into my company? And they said, well, it is a requirement. I said, but I'm asking, so help me in this whole decision making for you to decide that you're going to open an account for me. What is the value of this entity called mother? And the banking agent struggled, but I could understand that for the bank agent, their work is simple. Take the form, and it has to be filled. These things are important. And we ended at a point where they could not, to be honest with you, because I told them, I said, so is it possible to talk to your supervisor? He says, no. Just make life easy, fill the form. So I filled the form, and I feel like I should not have given her the number. Let's say for my mother, what is the value of my mother's number in this whole experience? But you're right.
Thank you.
Which brings me to a question that I have for Professor Oyana and all of us who are into training. How do we go beyond the people that come to us for the degree programs? How do we design literacy programs that go beyond the mainstream academic provision? That my mother is empowered to say that information I'll not give it to you because it is not relevant unless you're able to explain to me. Because the laws are there, the regulations are there, the standards are there. But how do we go beyond that call of duty? Who is going to take the bull by the horns? I don't know whether
It is on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll first of all start by serving the banker. In databases, we validate information. So if they wanted to determine that you're the same person, they could use that question to ask you, like if you're doing mobile banking or something, they can say, what is your median name? So it is important for validation. I hope I am trying to help the banker here, okay?
You're actually making more trouble for them.
To confirm it is you. It can be used in circumstances where somebody can call in as Michael, but they can say, what is your mother's name? And then if you confirm, you can go ahead with the transaction. Typically, that is how we use that information. I want to come back to the basics. Yes, I can decide to communicate in a very heavy language. I think one of the areas of data science is communication strategies. How are you going to communicate? And there are various ways to communicate. Visual is normally very powerful. You can use pictures to deliver the message. Sometimes the message can also be lost in translation, okay? One of the trainings that you have in academia and when you're speaking to different levels, they say you have to keep it simple. Just like journalists operate, they keep that information very simple. If you want to reach a very limited audience, okay, then you can use all the words to show that you're educated. So I think that we have to simplify the message so that we are able to inform policy, to inform stakeholders, and sometimes using examples can help you deliver that message. So I think that at the university, we have various units. We don't only train our students through the technical stuff, but we encourage them to do cross-cutting courses like in communication, okay? But also, if you are teaching, you can deliver the message that look at the target audience. What is the purpose of the message you are delivering? If I went to speak to my relatives about what I have done, I use a different language so that I'm able to give examples and show what I have done in my education. So I think that if you look at your communication strategy and develop a clear message, I think we can keep the training very simple and improve digital literacy. You invite me to go and talk to the village about weather information, for example. I'll keep it simple. I say there are certain things we observe so that we know when the rains for farming are going to come. Okay? But you see on radio or TV, they say scattered rains, just scattered, the concept scattered rains. Somebody in the village will not understand. But if I told a person in the village, there are some areas that will get rain and others will not, I think I'm talking about scattered rain. So just like when we are training our children to speak, sometimes we come down to their level so that we can deliver the message. So communication is very critical, and that's why, like in Makerere University, now we have a communication officer in every faculty. They can help us with messaging, okay? So that's what I would advocate for. Keep it simple.
Which is critical, keep it simple, but, and I don't know who wants to take it up here, because the digital literacy gap beyond, even within those that have gone through mainstream education, in terms of beyond digital literacy, but also competence, if I could put it that way, is something that if you're going to see a data-driven ecosystem economy, is something that we need to be very, very intentional about. And so the challenge that I have for the panel is that how do we make that simple a reality? How do we make that simple a reality? That my mother, who is a farmer, has an appreciation of the value called of data that is on a receipt, and knows that that is very important. I attempted to do farming with Mom, and so I made the investment. We went in, and every time I would go and check, things are looking good. Then I would ask the manager, from the investment that we are making, what does the market look like? Of course, my mother chipped in and said, the market, these guys are all thieves. Hey. Interesting. So harvest time comes, and I was looking for a record of labor. How much time have we invested? Because we are paying the workers per day. So if they are in this particular part of the garden, then you're saying they spent this amount of time in your maize garden. Anyway, long story short, we get to selling. Even before we sold, we had already declared a loss. So I was like, but how do we declare a loss? It says, this price is not working. Hey. Okay. So we sell. But at the end of it all, after sale, she gives me money. No, but we made a loss. Yeah, but they have paid us. But we made a loss. And right there, it hit me, it's the level of appreciation of the data that we could have collected. Now I don't exonerate myself because I was a telephone farmer. How is everything working? How would I have collected, or what could I have done to the farm in a better place? And one of the things I'm trying to do is put together a basic mobile application that the person who is supporting me at the farm can feed in data, and I'm able to see. But the challenge I have for all of us, and all of us who are here, is that how do we move from this simple into a reality? And I think it was Chris who mentioned it, and I want to give an example. Most of the farmers cannot, and they are not small farmers, they could be earning over 200 million, but they can't get credit from the bank. Why? Because they have no data to present to the bank. But the bank collects money every single day. I went to the bank close to home, and I said, can we get a credit facility? And the gentleman asked me, says, what collateral are you bringing? I said, the business. He says, which business? I said, farming. He says, The man was like, that will be difficult. I said, why is it difficult? Every single week, we are depositing money from the sales of milk, of maize, of matoke. He says, you will need a car logbook, or boom, we're done. So as we go to the plenary asking us, to ask the panel, I'm also challenging us. How do we translate from the stuff that we do very well so that we can get more people using this stuff? I don't know what's the microphone.
Maybe.
Yeah, we need somebody to help move the microphone. It's that moment where I'm asking us either to ask questions or to contribute to this conversation.
Maybe
the first question I have for all of us is that how do we do the translation?
Michael,
what Prof is saying, keep it simple, into a reality that we can keep it simple.
I had an answer to that.
You want to?
If you mind?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Atwin.
That is a quite interesting answer, but these devices, question, these devices have the answer. And it's not that we don't have the data. We are not storing the data right. We have a lot of data. And if I can give an experiment, if any of you have Android phones and don't mind, you can track your last location for the last maybe, I don't know how many years. Yeah. You just go to timeline.go.ug. So timeline.google.ug. Sorry, I'm used to go.ug. You shall forgive me about that. Timeline.google.com, and you shall see all your locations that you have been at for the last, I don't know how many days or even years. We are collecting data, but we are not storing it in the right location. Or we do not have the setup or the infrastructure and the design for collecting all this data and giving it to the right people to use. An example in Dubai, there was a minister who went to Dubai, and as soon as they got to the airport, he just walked through and they told him that, here, you are free to go out of the airport. He said, but you have not taken me through customs or what? No, we already have your information. By the time you got on the plane, there was already historical information about you. And it was, that historical information went through processes, IT, no human was in the middle. It was an IT process that collected that information, looked through your background. Did you have any issue when you arrived? Did you have any, how many times have you come to Dubai? So that historical information is very important. If we don't have a historical data, then we will not be able to achieve our goal in data science.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Maybe Mike, I can also contribute something.
Okay, Williams.
Yeah, thank you so much. You actually make it simple. Because I think that has also been one of my observations, that we do have universities with well-developed curriculum and a structure. Although all our universities try to ensure that there is that community outreach, although it's a little bit not very, very strong, but at least all universities have well-structured curriculum where you teach a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering and some small degree of community engagement. Then we do have these certificates, the technical institutes that also have well-developed curriculum for the training. If it is sewing, if it's bricklaying, if it's mechanics, they have a curriculum. But we do have these end users, the women in the markets, our mothers, the people down there, that we sit in office and think of the data science models that we think are going to help them. But they do not have anything they know about this, but you want them to appreciate what you have done. So for me, I always think that there's that missing link. And that's why you have these organizations like initiatives like Data Science Africa, Uganda. They could think of coming up with small trainings. These could actually be data science for farmers, data science for anything. And these are very, very short and small trainings. Why you say you're going to go in Kabali and run a data science program you're going to run a data science program for people in Owino to see how they can actually use their data. You're not going to expect a university, because usually these universities, unless it's a project. If I get a big project, maybe from an NIH, I can say, okay, let's put a team. But there's no university that's going to run a program and say it's going to go to Central Market, into Owino, and get these women and say this is what we are going to do. So if we could have those retooling or training courses, low content, not this high context and data science and speaking of complex terms, but very, very low, that is well and developed for those target people. I think we could try to bridge the gap. Then another one could be for companies. We have students that finish campus with the skills, with the knowledge. They actually know data science, the theory, the real theory, and some practicals. But when they go and start their companies, they actually fail to really use the data science. Because the data science now to really make insights from these mobile apps they're developing based on the user needs, they don't have those skills. So how could we have Data Science Africa, Uganda, come up with some simple training for startups, for innovators? How do we come up with short trainings? Then you could engage the university staff and Data Science Africa maybe, get some people to deliver these programs. How could we have a digital platform where we say if you were a startup and you want to really develop your first AI model and deploy from best principles using our own data, where can somebody go? Because we have seen startups, they say, I want to do data science, but I even don't know where to start from. They just sit down, develop a software, give to a client, and they say, it's a data science-driven application. But ideally, there's no data science. Someone says this is a machine and AI something, but there's no AI at all. So how do we now go and get the complexities from the university, have this Data Science African and come up with small training programs for startups, for mothers? You can say data science in Uganda or something, and you just want to talk about data science in a local language. So this is when now these people can actually appreciate. But if we remain, if we don't bridge that gap between the real end users and the people who deliver these, because ideally they are the startups, there are these companies that with students that have graduated, have produced products and they're the people who are solving the real problems. Not necessarily the professors who are seated maybe in office, but there are these students that finish, go start up companies that provide solutions that are solving the challenges. So we need to empower them with the practical skills on how to really deliver the data science we are talking about. And also small trainings that can be offered by, like Data Science Africa. We would have a hub that provides this type of trainings. Thank you.
I think you've spoken like a real mutwawansi of how do we move from just the rhetoric and talking about it. How do we build models? How do we get things working? I already see a couple of hands, but there are those of us who arrived late. Sorry, there were those of you who were delayed. That breakfast, which is now break tea, was paid for. So feel free to go and grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee. I'm trying to be, so that because I know what it means to move you out of this place and bring you back here, will be another 45 minutes. So for those of you who feel need some sugar, feel free to step out, grab something, and as we continue the conversation. Okay, so I see Goretti, I see engineer, I see the gentleman at the back. So let me first deal with this, then I come here. Is that fair enough? Good. So shoot your question or comment. We will take note, and then we will have a response from the panel. Goretti.
Thank you very much, Michael. I would like, first of all, to introduce myself a little bit. Goretti Masade, the CEO of the Uganda Institute of Banking and Financial Services, and I'm delighted and grateful that I was invited to this event. I would also like to congratulate you, Data Science Africa Uganda, and also to commend your choice of colors, green, because only data will save us, sustainability, climate change, and all. So congratulations, and thank you for this. I want to comment, first of all, to thank the panelists very much, but also comment and contribute to your question. Your question was, how do we become a data-driven ecosystem or culture? I've observed scientists and how they work around other people. There is this thing of cause and effect. Cause and effect. And then if we go to the cycle that you've talked about with data, collect, process, and use. In my view, this room and the Data Science Africa network, maybe the technocrats, is really where processing is happening. Now, where the use and collection is, I feel, is where the demand is. So how do we ensure that we have a demand culture? As opposed to pushing. If you push, you're going to have to train and train. But how do we ensure that people demand for data? If people demand for data, they will be careful about how they collect data. They are going to be careful about everything that they do. And so, I'm saying, how do we create a questioning culture? How do we create a why culture, a how culture, and a what if culture? I think it's about critical thinking from your children. You ask a question about the banker, and not because I'm a banker. And thank you very much, Prof. You say to validate. I'll also say something. What if everybody that you've put on the form is not available and you've got an accident and you're dead? I think they'll say, let's call the mother for your account, for your money. It's possible. But the person who collected the data might not even use it because they didn't know why. So for me, I think that we need in there to make it a reality for your mother. She would understand that why I have this information, could I use it for farming? So to keep it simple and short, the questioning culture. Why, how, what if? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Goretti. That's powerful. So, engineer.
Yeah, thank you to our panelists and the moderator. My name is Engineer. I would like to use this opportunity to solicit advice from this panel, trying to project the future of data science, Africa, Uganda. I was doing my computations here, looking at the students getting to university now. They graduate around 2025. Students getting into high school, they might graduate around 2030. And students getting into senior one now might be graduating in 2035. And the students getting into, or the children getting into primary one might be getting out of university, looking for work or creating jobs around 2040. And those who are about to be born, they might be graduating around 2045. So trying to project data science Uganda in that perspective of those who are yet to be born, who will be with us here in 2045, those who are entering primary school now, those who are entering secondary school, those who are entering university, how do we shape data science Africa, Uganda to meet the country needs and the population needs for this emerging ecosystem? Thank you.
Engineer, do you want them to submit a paper, PowerPoint presentation? Let's first go to the back because it was, well, that's a powerful question. I hope you got the... Go ahead, introduce yourself and then, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm called Natushkai Sophie, software developer at Kasaiba Technologies. I just have a few questions. One is, how is the government prepared to harness data to solve the the leading problems in healthcare? For example, we have very many hospitals in Uganda, but do we really have computations on this data that is in these hospitals? And how is it standardized to be ready for data science and machine learning? And then the science labs that we have in Uganda, we normally concentrate more on paperwork and publishing papers, maybe doing robots. But do we really come down to go to the government programs and understand the execution within the country. How can we bring that to our labs instead of the research papers that we are doing, but rather sort of the government programs that are there and affecting people? So it's the opportunity that we have, Data Science Uganda being launched, but how can you link up with government, sort of the problems that are really affecting our country? Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you're working in university, you publish or you perish. So man has to survive. So let them publish. At the end of it all, cassava must arrive on the table. So I'll have that and then this, and then we move this side. I see 3 hands, and then we'll have the panel to respond.
Yeah, thank you very much, Speaker and the panelists. Chikawa Cliff Richard, PhD, Mathematical Statistics. Mine is rather on the marketing side of data science. I was really excited for the invitation from Martin, but from our rhetoric, let me call it so, I have realized that we have concentrated more in selling data science to universities than talking government who I want to see at the end of the day. But I would like to advise, or probably ask the stakeholders, do we have a unique structure for marketing data science to report down to the Muntua 1C? If we lack that, then we are going to bring up this data science rhetoric and it will remain at the cream of university. For instance, if you go to a country like China, Ningbo province, Ningbo Polytechnic, there's data science. But I don't know whether in our data science Uganda, we are thinking of a platform of bringing on board technical institutions, non-degree awarding institutions. They may be the majority than the degree holders. So if we bring them on board, then reporting down to Muntua 1C will be easier because they will speak the language. Yes, we the degree holders will teach them, then they will teach them Muntua 1C. Some of us are so prophetic, or professors, like Speaker said, we are always in offices. We never go down to the Muntua 1C. Yet, people who would go there are ignorant of the concept, data science. So I advise that we create a unique structure. We can actually we can benchmark China, we can benchmark South Africa, where I've stayed for quite long. Data science is there in primary schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I like the advice bit. Now you see the problem with, when you start this plenary, even those, so I need to find, because I'm also trying to manage time. So I have about 25 minutes to bring this panel to a close. Ernest, those who look at you and like, but really, Michael, not me. So Ernest, so let me request those who are going to ask questions, please keep them. Don't make a presentation, a preamble before the question or comment. Ernest.
Is it because of me, Michael? That's my question. All right, I have 16 questions, but I'll keep it to 1, given what Michael has said. So this is very specific to the panel. So we want people to join data science. I want to ask them, 1, if they are going to pay to join, and 2, what their value is, what the value they see in joining is, or what they want Data Science Africa Uganda chapter to do for them individually and as an organization. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take this, then I deal with her. There are now 4 hands here. So please make it brief. Yeah.
My name is Geoffrey Dan Odokonyero. I'm the CEO of Elago Technologies. And my question is basically on the side of students who are doing research. We get a lot of challenges to access to data sets, highly classified data sets. And I'm doing research in biometric security and I do forensic analysis. We cannot get access to data. So my request to Data Science Africa Uganda there should be some anonymous data sets that are provided to some of these students so that they can conduct their analysis. That's one of the requests, because looking at the ethical considerations, you cannot access fingerprint data set. I've tried going to the police, I've tried going to Ministry of Internal Affairs. They tell you to create. Transcribing the data set is really expensive for a student. You need about 10 million or 20 million to access the data set. That is my request for Data Science Africa Uganda. Thank you.
Okay, that's a request. So I'll have Arthur will come this way. So that will
Thank
be
you,
around.
Michael. My question, almost building up what the previous presenter has said, is what can make data science successful is the foundational components, and here are the base registries: national ID, the business register, the land register. So when a kid is born, are we making sure they have a unique identifier? Do we have a unique identifier for every piece of land in Uganda? Every piece of movable property, maybe we can go for cars. Because at any one time, if you are a data scientist, you are dealing with people, you are dealing with the land, you are dealing with a business. And so the unique identification of these foundational components have to be addressed first, because everything else is dependent on them. I thank you.
Thank you. Next to you. No, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Flavia Uma. I am working with Uganda Bureau of Statistics. I am not representing the organization. I came because I love data science. One thing that we know, as the panelists have put it across, is that data science is a mixed or a multiple field. And when I heard the doctor speak about marketing of data science, I want to bring it to us is that as we think about data science for Uganda, let's look at it as an all-inclusive field. It won't stop at the mathematicians, the scientists, the communicators. What can somebody at the level of a Gombolola chief bring on board? Yes, we've been talking about PDM and data collection, and we've been involved in this exercise. And we see there are a lot of gaps even right at the level of the village. People don't know this. How are we going to look at this and ensure people are included in this data science agenda? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sabiti?
Thank you. Very quickly, I think, one of the reasons I think there is a disconnect between innovation and reality, in my view, is that sometimes the scientists in general tend to forget that science does not exist in a vacuum, that you are dealing with society in general. So the assumption that every innovation will be embraced, I think, is a wrong assumption. I think we need to remember that some of these revolutionary ideas sometimes do have a negative impact on certain people who have a self-interest to resist them. So I think we need to do a lot of research when we are coming up with all these innovations, for example, the digitizing systems. How are they going to affect certain people, and how could that make those people resist those kinds of innovations? I think the best example is this recent policy to increase the salaries of science teachers. Very good scientific decision, very lousy social decision. Because the other teachers basically went on strike and nearly shut down the whole education system. So I think one of the roles of Data Science Africa Uganda should be to do social research, actually. How are these decisions likely to affect the society in general? The last is the question to Nitayu. I'm sorry, since the director is here, I can't help myself. I really need to know what could be the reasons why some agencies or sister agencies are not so receptive to certain life-changing proposals, for example, to harmonize certain systems? I've been suffering to get a passport the last 3 months. The information they asked from me is the same information that the driving license people have, the same information NIRA has, it's the same information NSSF has. What could be the reason why these agencies cannot seamlessly share that data and create efficiency in service delivery? I have a feeling I might have clues, but I want to hear it from the NITA director. Thank you very much.
The chair of the board, NITA, is over here. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have 2 questions, but very brief. One is a concern. One of the presenters was saying that they would like that as much as possible the data that we have is structured. But these days we deal with a lot of unstructured data. People are using WhatsApp, they're using TikTok and other things, Google Maps and so on. And maybe a bit of the data of Google Maps might be structured in that they pick the exact coordinates of where you are, but part of the information available on Google Maps is unstructured. Therefore, it suggests that we should be able, as a country, to deal with both structured and unstructured data. So the gentleman who talked about it knows, so I asked him to comment on that. The second issue, which I want to raise very briefly, is the concern I have that much as we are collecting a lot of data, but actually we are like guinea pigs. We are collecting the data, but we are not the ones keeping the data. So as you move around on my phone, for example, it has been set to track where I'm going. So when I reached here, it says, yes, we can see you are at the Uganda Institute of UICT. That was Google Now sending me a message. Would you like to answer some questions about UICT? Which services do they have, and so on and so on. So now, if I answer those questions, all that is data. But that data is not with us here in Uganda. It is in America or where, somewhere else. So the issue we have, the problem we have, is to develop applications locally in Uganda that are usable, with which we can collect data and make use of that data ourselves. And that would solve the problem even of my colleague who was asking about that for their research they don't have data. There is a lot of data, but it is somewhere in Facebook, Google, and all that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, I'd like to give you the democracy to choose who wants to go first, and I also allow you to respond to the questions that you feel, you can respond to. The others, you can have a lunch date with the person who asked the question if you feel, it's much more than the time that we have. So, I don't know who wants to go first. Attrib, you can.
Thank you, Michael. Since some of the questions are directed to me or to government, I would like to address some of them. For the passport, why are you being asked to provide the same information that you provided in NIRA, in driving license? These are some of the things we are discussing right now, because we are going to, or government of Uganda is going to roll out a new, and it will be digital, or in a sense, functional ID. This functional ID should address some of the challenges that we are facing now. So for now, I can't make a pronouncement on that matter, but within the course of time when the digital ID is coming out, there are the things that we need to work on address. I believe if you go to the national driving license, services are much faster, and that's because of that digitization. The main thing that they want from you is the NIN. Once you have a NIN, then all the information that maybe they would require, they already have it in NIRA. So once you provide the NIN, the driving license, the NIN, then the other information is available. Passport, however, there's a bit of, there's some legality that requires them to ask, even if they have it, they want you to provide it. They don't want to assume that this is your, let's say, your mother's name, your father's name. They want you to validate, are you actually the one asking for this passport? Because it's online, you're registering online, you're not physically at the driving, sorry, at the passport office. Passports is done online, so they want you to revalidate, is this your mother's ID, your father's ID? Then they check, they do a background check and confirm that what you have provided is aligned, and that's when the processing starts. So there's some bit of legality that's required for the information to be resubmitted to the passport office. Then I will answer about 3 questions in one. The gentleman at the last end asked, how can we as government use data science to solve our challenges? We recently experienced floods in Bali. But I will also answer the question of engineer. There are people coming out of school every year. What do we answer to them? How do we present data science to them? Data science is not about scientists, or its core is not science, or it's not computer science, mathematics. It is the expert domain. The expert domain, the expert domains must be data-centric or data science-centric. So we have to train them. The metrology office should have a data science unit. I think there was another question on, there's something about government support, but all those government agencies should integrate data science within their offices, within their units. Data science, they are giving you a blueprint. This is what is expected. From the data that we have, this is how you should take this action. That blueprint is formulated from the data, historical data. So they build up from the historical data and then give you a blueprint and say that, do this action, you will solve this challenge. We're not scientists who are going to solve those challenges. There are the expert domains who will solve those challenges. The data science just designed that blueprint. And it's that how do you define information? You can't tell someone coming out of university in 2024, this is how information looks like. All of us, well, sometimes it's misinformation. But the knowledge, what knowledge is in that information? How do you explain to them that this is how knowledge, or the blueprint of knowledge, this is how the knowledge should be designed, or this is how, I'm trying to find the best word to say. But it's a model, you're designing a model that is knowledge-based. And once you input data, it's going to give you an action that is expected. To a certain degree, that's why there are some degrees. We cannot go to every agency and explain to them the Monte Carlo algorithm, the reinforcement algorithm, the artificial intelligence, all those. We cannot do that for every agency. But we recommend, at least within those agencies, there's someone who has information on designing a data science model or an information-based model. And then they can now be the ambassadors within those agencies. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, so Williams, you can go, and then Prof.
Okay.
So I'll take it that direction. So let's move.
Sure, thank you so much. I just want to respond to 2. One is about the structured and unstructured data. I think what I personally meant was standards, because even if it is structured or unstructured, it should be standard compliant, and there are some open standards that any system or any person developing a software should ensure that this software is compliant to a given standard. So these standards, even if it's WhatsApp, even if it's unstructured, these messages, they comply to a given standard. So every message has a message ID, a message body, a message, so you can actually be able to send that message to WhatsApp, to email, to a phone. So there are those standards that must be compliant. You don't want somebody to develop a mobile app where a message doesn't have a message ID, because it's not, which means it's not standard compliant to a given standard. So there are those standards like HL7, FIRE standards that everyone should actually be aware of, because they allow data interoperability. And it's that standard that can help these organizations like police to share data. If I develop a software for police and it's data compliant on a given standard, I should actually be able to just make data anonymous, public data. If a student comes and I say, I want data for research, I should be able to go to this standard, know that if I want to anonymize this data, according to the standards, what do I remove? I remove this ID, I remove this, and I should be able to make that data private. Me personally, I develop softwares, and all the softwares we develop, we have to ensure that they are compliant. So that's about the structured and unstructured, but you must be able to comply to a given standard. Another one is for engineer, about how and when. I think that was one of the questions that when it came, I said, I think I'm happy that we're almost reaching a saturation point where we are saying, how do we make sure that data science goes down, and it's well appreciated by everyone. So for me, I think, yes, there have been a lot of curriculum reviews where ICT was introduced into the curriculum. Now STEM was introduced into curriculum. So all those reviews have been coming on board. And when STEM was introduced into the curriculum, it was mainly robotics. Yet ideally this STEM was supposed to actually have more, not only robotics. So when you talk to somebody that I want to do STEM in school, the only thing they think about is the robotic. You're teaching kids to see how the robot moves. So I think we need to see that if it's not possible to review some of these curriculum, we could now have trainers, teachers, even if they're primary teachers, empowered with skills. Because that's what we're trying to do at African Union, to ensure that you're not going to review all curriculum in the whole schools, but how do we train the trainers to ensure that even when I'm teaching using this curriculum, if I'm teaching political science, I'm able to talk about data science, and somebody actually knows how can data science be useful to me if I want to be an MP. So even if I'm teaching to primary kids and I'm teaching science, I'm teaching microscope, I'm able to bring in the concept of data science without necessarily throwing away the curriculum and developing a new curriculum. Yeah, so thank you so much. So I think if we could empower first the teachers with skills, data science has different levels. So we could have Data Science Africa develop curriculum for data science empowerment, and you start from teachers, so that even when they are teaching primary kids, they're actually talking about STEM, robotics, and the other parts of data science. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I will start with the issue of us joining the community. I will say, yes, I want to be with my peers, because the way we practice disciplines is by joining a group and being with that peer and exercising and learning from one another. So yes, I will be willing to pay and to be a member. I hope that answers the question. I want to also respond to the chairperson, the board, Nita. We do have various tools and techniques to handle all types of data, whether it is structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Actually, many times we convert it back to structured because many methodologies and tools are there. But in data mining, we deal directly with the text as it is. You can organize it in a way that you can then probe into it. I do know that largely unstructured data and semi-structured is in large quantities. But those who got there first have organized and structured their data. And if you do that, you get better outcomes. You can still deal with the data the way it is because the techniques are there. Then this one is to engineer. I think many people have given it thought. There's a dynamic element to what we do in science. I know from the Nature Journal they've argued that 3 technologies will dominate the world up to 2040. geotechnology, biotechnology, and nanotechnology. Something else will come up. But I think the way curriculum is looked at, every 5 years you look at new aspects, revise, and introduce new topics, okay? So I think that it won't be the same 40, 50 years from now. First of all, if you look at the magic of artificial intelligence, they say there will be machines splitting knowledge, not human beings. And some have argued that critical thinking will become very important because there will be a lot of information out there, and then people can think. That's why forecasting science is becoming a big deal. The reinvention of philosophy and cognitive science, okay? So as we evolve, we should comprehend and adjust and align according to the change. So my short answer is we have to think about now, tomorrow, and in the future. The way we talk about data science now may not be the same 40 years from now. And finally, how do we improve access? I know there were some questions. You know, data is power. Data is the new gold. And generally, there are some institutions that don't want to share data, but then they are not adding value to that data. So I suggest that you be open and allow people play around with that data, because they'll bring novel insights that you have not seen, especially universities play a critical role. But the other way I have seen how data that is protected is handled, allowing people to come and work with the data at the source, okay? If you can't give it to me, let me come to NITAU and work from there for 2-3 months and get what insights I'm looking for. That is an avenue too. But we are ethical people. We fill out protocols. That is the best approach. And we try to follow your guidelines. But opening up your systems to academic or other people who want data, I think you should leave that privilege to citizens. They are the owners of data, okay? So allow them have that privilege to access data. Thank you very much, Michael. That's the best I could do.
Thank you.
What I recorded.
Yeah, it's you. Oliver.
Oh, okay. I think I'll be very brief, but and also some of the questions have been answered. Yeah, maybe, yeah, she had a very good contribution. I didn't get her name very well. Yeah, but about who needs the data, how do you get the data, what if? And also, I'm trying also to look at someone who commented on the society, the role of society. So I think as we move forward as data scientists or the data science network, maybe we need to put more emphasis on the society contributing to this move. Yeah, that's what maybe I could say. Yeah, it's really tricky because we come up with these innovations, but you see, like each farmers, like the people we work for or work with, yeah, they don't know what level of contribution or what data they need to be giving for a long time. So if the society is part of us, then if they are trained, then they can contribute like very well to these tools. And maybe the last part with to do with academics, the training of the students. I think moving away from the way we do research, we need also to send them back to the societies or to the fields, yeah, to learn these problems directly from there. So maybe some bit of training or internship that allows these students to move to organizations like e.g. work with NITA, like in a closed, on closed problems. Maybe they can be able to give solutions to different organizations or something. Yeah, so I think I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, thank you so much, colleagues. 2 questions that I would like to address. I think my understanding of Ernest's question about payment wasn't mainly only for us, but actually the wider ecosystem. Would
Yes.
people pay to be part of this?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that as a chapter, as Data Science Africa Uganda chapter, it's important to ask, what problem are we solving? Okay? Do we have data scientists out there feeling lonely and they might be crunching their numbers, doing their own thing? What problem are we solving? So, very important. And if we can constantly quiz ourselves on that, if we can deliver value for this community, people will pay. And the same goes for the question about how do we keep this simple? I would advocate for always starting with the problem. Why are we doing this? Because ultimately, if you are clear, if we're clear about the problem we're solving, and I'll betray, I'll confess my own understanding, is that we are all delivering a service somewhere. Even those who don't believe they're in business, you are in business. You're selling something. But how can you deliver better value? And I think as more and more services are digitized, they're delivered cheaper, faster, better. But how do you continue to deliver greater value? You analyze all this data and see where can you do better. And so I think if we can continue to quiz ourselves on that, this is a treasure trove of information out there that we can mine constantly and deliver value for policymakers, for ministries, for the general public, and also for the data science community. And so I'm really glad to be part of this conversation and looking forward to further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. I know there are a couple of people that still had questions, but I know that some of the things are not very easy to just bring to a close. We've been talking for more than 1.5 hours, so allow me to bring this panel to a close. And can I ask us to give the panel a huge round of applause? I think this has been extremely informative. You've given this subject the weight it deserves and the attention it deserves in what was expected of us. Now, for those that had questions, I would definitely recommend that let's try and engage these panelists in the next bits of the sessions that we're going to have. I have also been requested that the organizing team would love to have a group photo. So the panelists will probably, now the problem is some of the panelists have a positive advantage. So let's those who can, please come, let's take a group photo quickly, and then I will ask Martin to take on the next bit of the session. So let's come and take a group photo, gentlemen and ladies. Yeah. Thank you very much for doing justice to this. So let's be up front. Hello, let's move. Let's get moving. Let's get moving. We're coming up here. I don't know, is the lead photographer to guide us? Please do guide. The ship is sailing in one.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are
So we have two more activities to perform. The next one is we have two presentations that are going to be made, and we'll then go into the exhibition, which will lead us into lunch. So let me invite Martin to take on that as I respond to a few things. Martin, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. So we are going to have two presentations from our sponsors. So we've had three sponsors for this event. That is NSSF, then Fair Forward, and then UCU. NSSF is our gold sponsor. Fair Forward and UCU are bronze sponsors for this event. So let me invite Fair Forward to give us a presentation for 5 minutes, and then we shall have UCU also present for 5 minutes. Thank you. So let's clap for our sponsors.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there.
Good morning to you all. I had to check the time. I thought it's already midday. Now, my name is Mchibi Ivan, and I work as a technical advisor for artificial intelligence in GIZ. Now, GIZ has many commissions or many projects, one of which is Fair Forward Artificial Intelligence for All. And the main focus for this program is to work on the topic AI. Now, within Fair Forward, we support all the projects within GIZ with data-related issues, but my main focus will be projects that Fair Forward is working on outside GIZ and not within GIZ. Yeah, so GIZ has, Fair Forward has 3 pillars. As you can see, one is to improve access to training data. So we all know that without training data, you basically can't do much with AI. Then the second pillar is strengthening technical know-how. How do we make sure that we have the technical skills that are needed to implement AI solutions? And then third, is to strengthen policies that enable AI to flourish within the countries where Fair Forward is implementing solutions. Now, all these three pillars at the end enable us to democratize AI. So the main goal of Fair Forward is to democratize AI. And how do we democratize AI? We focus on three pillars. One is ensuring that there is data available to implement these solutions, ensuring that there is technical know-how, and then third, to ensure that we have policies that enable the first two to flourish. Now, I'll just briefly talk about some of the projects that we are working on within Uganda, and maybe some that are beyond Uganda but affect the activities that we are doing in Uganda. So in relation to creating data sets, we have what we call Common Voice. Now, within Common Voice, this is a project where we are trying to collect both voice and text data. And in this project, we've partnered with Makere AI Lab, Mozilla Foundation, and other partners who are not core partners that have not been mentioned. Now, we are already moving to the second phase of this project. The initial phase was collecting voice and text. From my slide, I've indicated 477 hours of Luganda voice data. It's probably more, but roughly that gives you a picture of what we've done so far. Now, the next stage is we will be supporting local startups to utilize this data to build voice and text solutions. So I think soon maybe you will hear a call for requests for proposals in relation to Common Voice. Now, the second project that we are working on is based on energy. It's supporting rural electrification. And from the slide, you can see that our main partners are Ministry of Energy, Sunbird AI, which is well represented today, and Datapop Alliance. Now, this project aims to develop a model that can identify the most suitable renewable energy source in a given village. And currently, we are piloting in Lamo district. Now, once this is done, how is it going to help? How is it going to be helpful in the larger ecosystem? So one is, once the tool is done, basically Ministry of Energy can use it as a decision support system. Then the result product will also be open sourced. That's the model and the data. So anyone who wants to use it to replicate the solution in other areas will be able to do so. I think one of the person in the audience mentioned that what the toughest thing to do is creating some of these data sets. So the data sets will be readily available for you to access, I think on GitHub, and the model could also be used to replicate the same solution for something different. Then we are also working on AI skills curriculum, and our main partners in this is Data Science Africa and the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. The purpose is, as you can see, it's called a guide, right? It's not, we're not building a curriculum, but we're building a guide. Makere is already offering courses that are AI related, but there may be some institutions which have not reached there. So hopefully this guide will enable other institutions to come up with similar programs. Then second, it's not only about the guide, but the end result will be to train about 50 to 60 data scientists in Uganda after we've done the curriculum, and also enable the 60 to get internships or a fellowship program So we'll partner with the private sector for the 60 that have been trained to actually implement in the workplace for a period of 6 to 12 months. So that's what we intend. And I think we are aiming, hopefully, to begin training, if not end of this year, it will be early next year. Another program we are working on is capacity building within government. Now, what we noticed when we were working with the Ministry of Energy, there is a big gap when it comes to basic data analysis. And initially, all the data analysis that the ministry was performing would come from several districts to the ministry. And basically, that's not sustainable. So what we decided is we would pilot a training of 35 local government officers in GIS, data analysis, and data visualization. And hopefully, depending on the result, this will be replicated in other government ministries. Now, we are also working with UN Global Pulse to develop an ethical framework and data markets framework. I think we are probably moving to a stage of implementation. We've done stakeholder engagements. The drafts are already out and have been reviewed. I think the next step is ratification of the drafts, and then we'll move to implementation. Then the other project is a peer learning framework. So we said that one of the things we are working on is policy. Now, Fair Forward works in 5 or 6 partner countries. That is Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Ghana, South Africa, India, and of recent we also have Indonesia. Now we are creating this framework so that we can have peer exchange between policymakers. So as you can know, maybe India is a bit ahead when it comes to policies that are related to AI compared to maybe, say, South Africa, Kenya, or Rwanda. So the peer exchange group is basically to discuss policies that are AI related. For example, in most African countries, we don't have an AI strategy. So how can we create one? So this peer exchange group will enable exchange of ideas and probably also lead to implementation of some policies that affect the implementation of AI within the region, and Uganda in particular. Then we are supporting the Lacuna Fund. So I initially said that we champion the creation of data sets for implementing AI solutions. So the Lacuna Fund is one of the avenues where there are calls or requests for proposals for creating various data sets. I think the last 2 were natural language processing, agriculture, and of recent we also have climate and energy. So these, once you apply for these grants and you receive them, the first step is you'd need to create the data set as the request came through for the proposal. But then we also want to ensure we have sustainability. So we don't just have data sets that have been collected and they are lying somewhere on GitHub. We'll also offer grants to develop solutions that are based on these data sets. I think there was a mention of floods in Mbale of recent. So one of the things that could be developed are early warning systems from the data sets that have been created from the recent call for requests, that is energy and climate related. Then we are also working with Smart Africa. So with Smart Africa, we've developed an AI blueprint with partner countries. The blueprint was ratified, I think, probably 2 or 3 months ago, and some countries are actually using it as a foundation to develop their AI strategies. Case in point is Rwanda and Ghana. And Uganda is also a member. Hopefully, we'll also move in that direction so that we can have an AI strategy to enable us build better solutions within the AI ecosystem. Then in agriculture, we are working on developing a solution called Croppy, and it will be for yield prediction. What we are doing is we have two global partners that have already implemented this solution in Colombia and Peru. Now we want to replicate the same in Uganda, and we've chosen one local partner. I've not mentioned the partner because the project hasn't started, but it's going to kick off soon. We've chosen a local partner who has not necessarily implemented any solutions in AI. And our intention for that is to have knowledge transfer. So these two global partners have implemented these solutions in Peru and Colombia. Now, when we partner them with a local startup, we'll have knowledge transfer. So hopefully going forward, this local startup will also implement other solutions other than this. Then, in addition to that, we also hope to help farmers use this solution to get loans and insurance. So it's not only about implementing an AI solution. There needs to be some impact other than AI. So for example, if you go and tell a farmer to share their data with you in order to build this solution, what's in it for them? Or what do they get? Because most farmers will not share their data with you. They'll say, well, we've been doing farming for the last 20 years. So there has to be an incentive for them to collaborate with you. So the incentive here is, one, enable them get loans, and then also enable them get insurance. And the solution will be implemented in Western Uganda and Eastern. Then maybe on this slide, just to mention two parts. We have an e-learning platform. It's called Atingi. Now on the internet, you probably know there's a lot of information, and it's readily available. So the purpose of the Atingi platform is to link AI and sustainable development goals. So which solutions in AI can you implement for which use cases? So that's the purpose of e-learning. Otherwise, there's already too much available on the internet. Then we also have an emphasis of Earth observation data. So as you might be aware, even currently, not so many institutions within Uganda are offering training on Earth observation. So we are trying to ensure that that is a skill set that is readily available. We've been conducting a couple of boot camps. I think so far we conducted 2, and hopefully early next year, maybe Feb, March, we'll have a boot camp that will be conducted physically in Uganda. So most of this information has not been readily available. I guess there are people in this room who probably did not know about Fair Forward. But now with the launch of Data Science Africa, I think this information will be pushed out for the consumption of members. Thank you. I don't know if anyone has a question. I try to make it brief as possible.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you very much for your presentation, because there's a gap in us reaching the community, and I know you are from GTZ. Do you have any community initiatives that help with the community engagement? Because one of the things we want to do is to reach the community that will take advantage of the information that we have.
Okay, so as maybe to answer your question, as Fair Forward as a program at the moment only has one project where we are engaging directly with the community. That is a collection of voice and text data. But what happens is GIZ has many programs. For example, we have refugee programs. So within the refugee programs, usually these projects have a data element. So we support them in anything that is data related. But if you had something in particular, maybe we are open to discuss it on how it could be approached.
My thinking is this new community that has been created, you can use it as a vehicle to have some outreach programs so that the data gets back to the users.
Yeah.
And I think it can also leverage the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for pointing that out. I think we'll take it up with data science. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this rich presentation. You talked a lot about the policy work that you've been doing. I would just be interested in knowing, have you done any sort of policy scoping in Uganda particularly? And if so, how would you rate the policy landscape in terms of supporting AI and the other innovation initiatives in the country? From your experience, also like in terms of the investments that are already going into this area from government, are we really investing in terms of following real money into this kind of work?
Thank you for the presentation. I'm trying to think out aloud. How would you engage with, say, Uganda Bureau of Statistics as GIZ into the area of AI? That is kindly help. I want to see that happening.
So to answer the first question on policy, and I don't want to be controversial here. So far in Uganda, we've worked on AI ethical framework and data markets framework. So those are the two policies that we are currently working on. But to be honest, if the policies are there, maybe they're in draft. But like I said, I don't want to be controversial. I don't think I'm the right person to speak about the policies that exist within government. But if they're there, they're in draft. That's what I can say. Then to answer the second question, how would Fair Forward engage, say, Uganda Bureau of Statistics? I think one of the hurdles we've had in one of the projects is accessing data that can support site identification. I know some of this data is in Uganda Bureau of Statistics. We had some engagement, and we were promised that some of this data would be shared to enhance some of the solutions that we intend to develop. So in short, our engagement with the Uganda Bureau of Statistics is to support the social tools that we are trying to develop, one of which is site identification, which we are working with, where we've partnered with Sunbird and the Ministry of Energy. But directly, not yet. So it's within the projects that we are doing that affect society. So I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. I'm going to request Uganda Christian University to come up. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tehemba Michael Ahile. I'm a lecturer at Uganda Christian University under the Department of Computing and Technology. Just listening to the panelists earlier on, I'm delighted to see that as UCU, we are in line with some of the thoughts that the leaders and advancers in data science have. I don't know if you can help me put the presentation up. I sent it to him.
All right, we'll just let you sort that out quickly. I'm wondering who the next group is. NSSF? You're ready to go? Nah. You're, all right. So NSSF, you're up next, yeah? Don't shake your head.
So as we wait for the presentation to be projected, one of the things that was mentioned was the fact that most of the opportunities available for data science are popular at the postgraduate level. And I'm happy to announce to you that as UCU, we are starting a Bachelor's of Data Science this September. And we are hoping that, thank you. And we're hoping that our desire is to be part of the contributors to the missing skill set in that aspect. If you look at what has been happening in the past, we have experts in computer science, we have statisticians, we have software engineers, and then we pull them into data science, and they take principles and concepts in data science to improve their field. We're trying to change that narrative a little bit as UCU, and we want to start with data scientists from the very foundation, give them the key concepts and principles. But as we do that, we are building them to have an outlook to various disciplines, because it was mentioned here severally that data science applies to various disciplines. So our data science program, our Bachelors of Data Science in UCU, we see to it that we start with the very foundation, but as we build them on the necessary skills and necessary concept, we also train them to have an outlook to see how it can be applied across different disciplines. Okay, as we wait, our data science program in UCU is going to take a very holistic approach. We have a team, the theme, which is aimed at data science for development. And we have 3 critical aspects that we'll be training our students to look at. The very first one will be development and industry, where we see our data science programs have impact on different industries. We want to have our students look at how they can change our communities, where we can have smart communities, where we can have automation in manufacturing, agriculture, and the likes. There's also another aspect of our data science program that looks at scientific research contribution. There was a lot of discussion today about standardization, open data sets. That will be another aspect that our data science program will be looking at. Open data sets, standardizations, APIs, and the likes. And the other aspect of our data science program will look at direct contribution into the sciences. Okay, another unique aspect, okay, thank you. Okay, this is a background information of UCU. We are officially 25 years. We have about 8 schools, 3 faculties, and 5 campuses. This just speaks to the fact that we are intentional about our growth, and this speaks to the fact that we have the capacity to contribute meaningfully to data science in Uganda. Currently, we have about 3 running postgraduate programs, and then we have a PhD in computing, which is starting soon, and we have 4 undergraduate programs. You can see there that Masters of Data Science, it's new. We are kicking off in January of 2023, but it has already been approved. I'm going to talk more about this program as we proceed. We'll find out that the way it's been structured is, it's been structured in a way that it can accommodate so many people. Whether you're a working class, whether you're working class, whether you're into academia, whether you work remotely, we've structured this in such a way that it can accommodate so many prospective students. So our focus today will be on our Bachelors of Data Science and our Masters of Data Science. Okay, so this is the 3 themes that our data science program will focus on. I already talked about it. I talked about standards. We also talked about interoperability. Okay, there were questions raised here. We have data coming from different formats. How do we solve that? So the scientific research aspect will look at solutions on how to address interoperability, how to address open data sets, and how to address standards. We'll also look at aspects of sciences. We'll also look at aspects of industry. We're trying to make sure that we think about this in a very holistic way. And down there, our slogan is to support Uganda's industrialization and grassroots development agenda. So there's the aspect of industrialization, And when we talk about the development agenda, a lot of discussion was happening here about how will the common man appreciate this, how will the common man understand this. And this is at the center of our programs that you see. Okay, this is explaining what I've said already. A very interesting approach that we are taking on. This is a presentation that is creating awareness about the program, but at the same time marketing the program. I'm optimistic that we have prospective students or collaborators or partners here in our midst. One of the things that we incorporated in the Masters of Data Science is that we're making it a modular program. What this means is that you would need to just be committed for about 4 to 5 weeks at a start. And the beauty about the modular program is that you don't necessarily need to be a registered, in quote, student to be able to take part in this. So if there's a module that is running and you're interested in the content of that module, you can just enroll for that module and participate in that. We're trying to make it as flexible as possible. We've talked about the missing skill gap. So we're not necessarily trying to fix it in a box, but so we're trying to think outside the box and see how we can get so many corporates, so many people working up country, you know, to be part of this. And also we have different plans. Plan A is for those that are majorly for those that are interested in academia. Plan B is for those that want to apply the concepts and the theories in data science to industries. And we have a postgraduate diploma. So whatever works for you, depending on your schedule and the rest, we almost have all the answers, or, you know, available for you. Another important aspect is the fact that everything we are doing, we are trying to be content specific. We have, as we're designing our data science program, we really had Uganda and the issues that are unique to Uganda in mind. So that's another aspect, another approach that we tried to incorporate in the design of the program. So if you're interested in using data to solve problems in Uganda, we'll be very happy to have you at UCU. And maybe at this point I can also mention that we are also open to partnerships and sponsorships from companies, corporates. If you appreciate the role that data science will play in your organization, we are open to working with you to sponsor students. Maybe after the first year, we recommend a number of students that are high flyers and we think will contribute to your organization in the nearest future. If you want to sponsor them, pay a portion of their tuition or all their tuition, we are open to such partnerships. If you also want to give our students opportunities to have internships at your organizations, we are also we are welcome to such opportunities and partnerships. Okay, so some of the things we'll be majoring on, data science as a whole, we'll be majoring on artificial intelligence, robotics, and security. I think at this point, I know it wasn't mentioned, we're talking about universities that have put their print on the map of data science in Uganda. I would love to mention that UCU is also one of them, won by this, and it's interesting to note that we actually have a data science lab at UCU, and some of the products, some of the research projects of our students are actually there on display. Anyone that wants to visit and have a look, we would love to have you visit us so that we can learn from you and you can also advise us better. All right, thank you very much. If you want to reach us, these are our contact details, our email, our website, and our Twitter handle. Since we are starting this, it's new, we are babies, we are also open to any advice, any contribution that can come from any of us to see that our programs are well structured and they serve the purpose for which they were designed. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions. Yes.
You have a question? Okay.
All right, I was just asking about entry requirements for the master's. Does it have to be somebody who's done data science at a bachelor's level?
No. Our entry, no, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree, but it has to be in line with computing.
Thank you for the presentation. What are the entry requirements for bachelors?
Okay. So for a bachelor's degree, we are following the standard set. So you need to have at least 2 principal passes, but you must have done mathematics. Yes.
No, hello, my name is Ken Tobias. Just a follow-up question, like, how much is the tuition for the bachelors?
I knew the question of tuition will most likely come up. I would give
back
the
to you.
figures in person. Yes. But it's affordable, and when you put it against the quality, it's very worth it.
Yeah, thank you very much, presenter. Yeah, this is actually now a challenge to all of us. We are talking of data science as being holistic, not only for scientists, but now I think you can see the entry requirement. You have to have mathematics. And I know, even in statistics, for instance, for a master's. Now, how are we really going to, this is a question to all of us here as think tanks. What are we going to do that we embrace even the non-scientists to make them appreciate the data science concept? We are talking of math, which is actually a forbidden subject to some people. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's a question to all of us, but one of the things we also do at UC is that for our projects, we allow, actually for the project, we allow interdisciplinary partnership. So what we do is that even though you are, okay, the data science is starting, but for now with our computer science students and our IT students, we encourage them to partner with students from law, we encourage them to partner with students from social work. So that's what we do now. And we actually do it in such a way that it comes out as a competition for their project. And on your team, you cannot have only computer science students. But so that's how they get to appreciate this concept. They get to learn 1 or 2 things. But at the end of the day, I think we cannot, we cannot do away with the fact that mathematics is very important for data science.
Just something small. When you say math, does that mean pure math, or you also considering those who did sub-math?
Yes, a math question. Well, the whole idea is that We also know that that foundation is important, so that we don't want students that will struggle for the 3 years. Math, I would just say it's important. But if something you've raised up, I know my head of department is listening. I also have one of my senior lecturers here. It's something we will take note of and see how we can reach a compromise.
A question from the audience is how long the master's program is?
It's for 2 years.
Okay.
If you are going through the entire program as it is, it's for 2 years. But if you want to do a module at a time, depending on your schedule, then it might take you longer than that. But overall, there are 5 modules for the master's program. So if you're following, if you're a fully registered student and you're following the timeline set and you're not missing any, 2 years.
Yeah, thanks. So just a very simple solution to the math problem and statistics, actually, because lately with everything kind of being available online, we have people coming up as data scientists that are lacking on the statistical aspect of things. So people can do fancy things, visualizations and all of that, but cannot do proper statistical analysis. So, but nevertheless, it doesn't mean that someone from, let's say, social sciences should not be admitted into data science. Actually, if anything, you want to take on people from the different fields because there's a benefit for people from different walks of life being able to apply this tool to whatever they are doing. So a simple solution could be to have different entry levels, and you can provide catch-up courses based on the person's entry level. So for example, if someone's background is in statistics, Uganda, I'm not sure if people have caught up in terms of the academic institutions, but we tend to find that at times people with statistical backgrounds barely have any computational background at the undergraduate level. So even they have a component they are lacking, which is computer science. So they would also need a catch-up, probably a catch-up course in some form of computer science that is relevant to data science. So likewise, for people who don't have any computing or mathematic background, any mathematic background, you can have a module that helps them catch up, and then they can continue on. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's
Anyone
well
else?
noted. Thank you very much.
You still want to ask? Okay. Anyone else before we close? Nobody?
All right, thank you. Maybe one thing I didn't mention is that it's also going to be blended. So you don't have to worry about coming to Mukono. We can reach you at your homes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'd like to ask Martin to come and close.
Yeah, so I'm not closing because we still have the exhibition. We have different organizations showing us how they are treating data, and we thought that is an important aspect, all part of this launch. Because data science is already here in Uganda. They're doing it in banking. You've seen they're doing it in academia. So we want always to have people exhibit, showcase what they're doing with data, such that it can motivate other people to go into the data field. Now, from the exhibition, we shall be going for lunch. And I thought maybe at this moment I would invite Mr. Bright to give us a prayer. We never had the opening prayer, but let's have a prayer that also covers the food. Okay, so Bright, over to you. And after that, we shall be going for the exhibition.
I'm going to pray a non-denominational prayer because I believe we are from all walks of life, but we believe in some sort of God, right? Okay, so let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for this watershed moment in the history of this country. We thank you for Data Science Africa, the Uganda chapter. Lord, we pray that even as we begin this initiative, we pray that it will help us to come up with solutions that are going to help us solve the problems that we have in this country using data. Help us to grow the community, help us to grow the ecosystem, and may we come up with solutions that are going to make this country a better place. We pray for the leadership of this initiative. We pray that you give them wisdom to drive this Data Science Africa Uganda chapter in the right direction for the good of this country and for the good of Africa. And even as we continue with the program, go for the exhibition, as we prepare to have our meal, we pray that you bless it and may the food give us energy to do your will. We pray all this. Amen.
Maybe just one thing. So we are an interim committee of Data Science Africa. I read out the members, but would want more people to join us. And the panelists did not answer the question that Ernest was asking. But I would call upon people to join us. But we want people, committed people, and we are serious about the token payment. Yeah, because we believe that's the only way we know that people are serious. So in Data Science Africa, just to give you an example, in Data Science Africa, we have been around for maybe 8 years, but it's very difficult to know how many people we have, People come for our events in hundreds, but we don't have that kind of thing. So in Data Science Africa, Uganda, we wanted to start having a way people should feel they belong, and by providing that kind of token, payment or subscription. So we are going to be sending out a form. Please, those who are interested in us contacting them after we have, had some discussions on how to go forward. Please fill that form, and then such that we basically grow these skills in Uganda to benefit, our relatives, our brothers and sisters, and our children, So thanks a lot. Let's go to for the exhibition, and there's also a board to sign. If you want, you can, put your sign and color the board. Thanks very much. It is the So we are going to have Flavia guide us to the exhibition area. Thank you.
Heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom.